Welcome back, everybody, back again to a new episode of RP Gibberish, the third in our Revived series. And it's going to be a great episode. I really look forward to it. But before we get started, there's two quick announcements that I wanted to give before we get started to the actual episode that we recorded yesterday. And first of all, as you can see, if you are watching this on YouTube, you can see that our designs and our logos have been completely overhauled. And both Greg and I are extremely happy with the results. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And I gotta give a major shout out here to Outdated Gamer, to Bernie, who is a great, great friend here on YouTube and Facebook. And he offered to help us out, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So Bernie, thanks a lot for doing this, and thanks for making the show look extra awesome. And secondly, is you will see in this episode that we are going to be talking about one game in particular. However, with three other fellow-minded Japanese RPG fans, we, at the later parts in the episode, we deviate a lot from Persona Q, which is the game that we're going to be talking about. You can already see in the title. We deviate at some point. I would say venture guess like 2 hours in, 2.5 hours in, we go off a different tangent and talk about some other games. So keep that in mind. It's still a great talk, and it is definitely something that I will have to elaborate on in the future. But with that being said, I hope you guys will enjoy the episode, and definitely check back soon. We are planning quite some few episodes as well. A few shorter ones here and there, so I hope you guys are excited for it. Of course, as usual, it is pretty tough to align a lot of people to, especially from all around the world, to meet time zones, etc., especially when everybody is really busy. So keep that in mind, but in any case, I hope you guys will enjoy these upcoming 3 hours of RPGibberish Revived, where we are going to be talking about Persona Q. So with that being said, let's take it away and start the episode. So guys, welcome back to RP Gibberish, a new episode. This is actually the third episode of the RP Gibberish Revived. And sadly, we do not have Greg in attendance today because we are going to be talking about a game in particular, which is Persona Q. And luckily, I'm not going to be doing this episode all by myself. We have not one, not two, but three awesome guests. And I'll give some time to introduce themselves. So let's get started with Senkai from Excellent Gamers.
Hello.
And we also have here Danny, Devil May Pie.
What's up, guys?
And finally, we have Alex, Return to Mother Base.
Alright, seriously, why does everybody always put Return to Mother Base after my name? It's like, that's not my last name. Alright.
It isn't?
Yes, it is.
It is now. All right, so welcome, guys. So for those who are unaware, these three guys all run some very awesome channels on YouTube. Definitely check them out. They usually talk about Japanese RPGs as well and some other great games. So all of us, we have been playing Persona Q, well, I would say pretty religiously over the last 2 months. I don't know about you guys, but I clocked in around 70 hours.
109 here.
I came in at 82.
Damn.
Damn,
Am I the only one that played on normal? Maybe that's why my hours were so low.
Nah, I was playing on hard.
I just overgrind. That's my thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not killing the boss in 3 hits. I'm clearly under level.
Senkai, you actually went the crazy OCD route, right? The last couple of days.
Yep, I did 100%. So the thing is, I started New Game Plus and played for maybe 15 hours, and then I felt like it felt wrong going through the game with like the second best weapons and stuff. So I went back to my first save and did 100%, and then did a New Game Plus. So.
Okay.
New Game Plus.
Yeah.
And did you use a different party setup this time too?
Well, every single character is 99, and have the ultimate weapon and ultimate armor, so I can use anybody I want.
No. Well, I mean more so like, did you make it a point to use different characters, or did you stick with your favorites?
No, I mix it up since I can. Like, there's no loss really, but I try them out to hear all these sound clips and stuff.
Oh man, give me that save file. Oh,
Seriously.
so
You,
all right, all right.
you keep it.
We'll get talking a little bit more about the gameplay, but in any case, to get back, so Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth. For those who are unaware about the game, it is of course a spin-off. It's combining the cast of Persona 3 and Persona 4's characters into a Etrian Odyssey style, which is a first-person dungeon crawler game. It's done by the Etrian Odyssey team. They made Persona Q as the spin-off title, and it is a very good game, right?
Indeed.
You mean
Yeah.
a very good game?
It's a very, very good game.
You know, I bit my tongue. I was actually thinking about saying that. It was okay. It was good.
There will be puns in this episode. There will be puns. So, this episode we're going to be talking about Persona Q for the most part. We assume that most of the listeners have played to Persona 3 and 4. If you haven't and still want to stick around, we are going to be keeping spoilers to a minimum for all three games. We do have a spoiler section towards the end, and we'll of course mention that. So if you don't want to get spoiled, then you can go away and then maybe come back once you actually picked up the game and beat it yourself. So keep that in mind. For now, we are just going to be running through the game, what it is, how it's set up, and first of all, you know, as this is a game is very based on Etrian Odyssey, so I played through all of the Etrian Odyssey games except for Etrian Odyssey Untold. I'm pretty familiar with this, and I knew what to expect. How about you guys? Danny, for instance?
Yeah, that's easy. Zero. I've played none of them. I have Millennium Girl. Been wanting to try that, but just kept putting it off. But yeah, I guess Persona Q is my start in the Etrian Odyssey style game, and yeah, I really love it. So look forward to playing the rest of the games. But yeah, this is my first experience with this kind of style game.
Awesome. Alex?
In terms of Etrian Odyssey or Etrian Odyssey, I've played a little bit of the fourth. I've played a little bit of the third. I haven't finished either of them. But in terms of first-person dungeon crawlers, I've played, you know, and I alluded to this before we started recording, you know, Might and Magic, Legend of Grimrock, some of the more traditional, I guess you could say, first-person dungeon crawlers, and the Dark Spire, which is fucking hard, just to say the least. But you know, but coming into a game like this, this Etrian Odyssey style, to me, it's a lot more accessible than the Dark Spire, because the Dark Spire just kicks you while you're down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, the Dark Spire is one of the absolute brutal, most hardest first-person dungeon crawlers that I've played out of the maybe 10 or so that I've played so far. So yeah, Persona Q is a lot more accessible, even for Etrian Odyssey fans. So Senkai, you played a few?
Well, so my first I think was, well, I played the demo for Etrian Odyssey 4, and I enjoyed it. So I got the full game, and it was very close to the release of Demon Gaze. So I played both of those, and I kept going back and forth to keep it fresh somehow, because I felt the lack of story in both games. But yeah, then so I got Millennium Girl because I wanted more story, and very very close to Millennium Girl. When I picked it up, Persona Q was released, so I had to play that first, you know. And Persona Q, I had so much fun with. I'm still playing it right now as we speak, actually. So yes, I will go and play Millennium Girl when I'm done with this one. But yeah, actually, so Persona Q is the first one I finished.
Okay, awesome stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys definitely check out Etrian Odyssey. Like I said, I still got to check out Untold Millennium Girl as well. Um, so you know, for some it might be new. So when Persona Q came out, I knew what to expect. You know, you get here some first-person dungeon crawling. You get some 5 or so labyrinths to explore, 3 to 4 floors for the most part, and you got to draw your own maps. You got to, you know, do some I would say some puzzles as well. You got to solve some labyrinth puzzles, like figure out how to progress through certain floors. And there's all these typical dungeon crawler, types of shortcuts and floor puzzles, etc., that are usually there. And intermixed with that is, of course, random encounters, turn-based random encounters. And instead of building your own party in an Etrian Odyssey game, what you have here is the cast of either at first Persona 3 until they meet up with Persona 4, or Persona 4 until they meet up with Persona 3 characters. And then you can pick out of 20 or so characters and a few new ones that are specific for Persona Q. And I'm very interested because you can pick every character you want. Which routes did you guys pick?
I guess I can go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
P4, not really any good reason. I guess I prefer P4 a tad bit more than P3. And
Nerd.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I didn't know there was going to be that much difference for dialogue and scenarios between the two. I just thought the beginning party is just going to be Persona 4 exclusive. Yeah, no good reason, but P4 party.
All right, Alex?
I went with P3. Initially, I was going back and forth between the two, but between the two games, I mean, I love both, but P3 has, I guess you could say, a lot more of a sentimental attachment. I have more sentimental attachment to. And considering, I'd played through Persona 4, Persona 4 the Golden, Persona 4 the Ultimax, Persona 4 Arena, I was like, well, let's take it back to, P3, and let's stick with some of these characters we haven't seen in a while. So that was ultimately what how I made my decision on which route to take.
All right. Senkai?
Well, for a lot of reasons, I went with the Persona 3 route. I do much prefer Persona 3 over Persona 4. Also, according to Corn Muffin, when I watched his impressions, he said that the Persona 4 route was actually a lot better. So since I knew I was going to play them both, I wanted to start with 3 and have the better experience, like to end the game. And also because I prefer Persona 3, I wanted to start with it. But
Okay.
So that was it.
All right. So yeah, it won't come to anybody as a surprise. I prefer Persona 4 as well, a little bit over 3. So I went with the Persona 4 cast, and it's nothing really groundbreaking. Like I mentioned, you play the first dungeon or so. Until the end of the first dungeon, you will eventually meet up with the Persona 3 cast, and from there on out, you can mix and match all the characters you want. There is only one reminder, and that is, which I sadly found out because whenever I play in a create your own party game, I just go with full female party, and I couldn't swap out Yu Narukami. I was a little bit disappointed that I could not run with my ultimate waifu squad of Mitsuru, Aigis, Yukiko, Chie, and Risei. Oh no, Risei is actually a navigator, so let's see, Yukari most likely.
No Fuka?
No, she's the non-navigator as well. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by that, but in the end, it didn't really bother me that much. Let's see, throughout the rest of the game, in the beginning I swapped a couple of characters, but in the end I stuck very true to Akihiko, Mitsuru, and Shinjiro in the front, and then in the back I had Yu Narukami and as Naoto. Naoto was a beast. What were some of the parties that you guys had, like Denny? Which some of the characters that you used the most?
Agree with yeah, I definitely agree with Naoto there. Yeah, the first dungeon I really didn't like my party setup, so the game got easier and better for me when I got the P3 cast to play with. So for the most part, I stuck with the same members. Of course, Yu Narukami, since I can't replace him. He's just kind of utility kind of guy, just heal here and there and attack. Got Akihiko in the front lines, which turns out he's not really a great tank. He actually dies a lot for me.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so I end up switching him for Makoto in the end, but I'll explain why later. In the back, I had Aigis, which she is a beast in herself. bullet sponge or a damage sponge, and a really good tank and range character as well. So very deadly. I mean not Yukari, Yukiko, just to deal, I guess, fire spells and heal, even though she didn't really get that many natural healing spells. And Naoto, just because she's so versatile and just kind of sweeps away at the random encounters with her Mudo and Hama skills. And yeah, that's my party most of the game.
Yeah, I used Yukiko in the beginning as well until I was like, she didn't really do a lot of healing until I used you as my healer. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Alex, which ones did you use?
I went for the purist route. I stuck with exclusively P3 characters, except for I think it was one or two quests where Teddy had to be in the party, and I really liked him, but ultimately I just thought he was very annoying, so I kind of just rotated him out. But for the most part, main character, who I had geared towards enfeebling and buffing. Akihiko was my main damage dealer. Mitsuru was my magic damage. Yukari started out as a healer, but halfway through, I think it's the third dungeon, her skill tree and just her utility, I guess just to be nice, it kind of just went away. So ultimately, she just threw potions at everybody, or healing items rather, or buff items. That's all she did. Or if somebody had a weakness, she would throw like a firecracker at him just so I could get the extra turn. And like even so for the final battles, she was, in all honesty, she was just like taking up a spot. She was kind of just like useless. But then on the other person I had in the back was Igus, and I totally agree with Danny. She's she's a beast, to say the least. And there was a bunch of times where she really did bail me out of a lot of problems, just for the fact that she can draw attention from enemies for an entire turn, or the fact that she could just take a ton of damage and just keep on moving. But I did notice her accuracy towards the end kind of went out the window, or maybe that was just me.
All right, I kind of regret not using Igus in the end. I should have.
She was really good. She was really good.
I used her in the beginning dungeons until she didn't do a lot of damage. But I would have in the end swapped her out for Shinjiro, I would think.
Orgy mode, man.
Yeah, orgy mode, like Orja mode. It's called Orja mode.
Oh my! How many times did you accidentally activate that? And you're like, oh, now I am screwed.
I never liked that ability, even in P3. I don't know.
I used it on the last boss actually, just because I was like, I have to end this like now.
What does it actually do? Like you get double damage or something?
Her crit rate goes through the roof.
Yeah.
Ooh, Orja mode plus myriad arrows.
That's exactly what I did.
But the catch is, after 3 turns, she becomes paralyzed for 3 turns. So if you don't finish what you're setting out to do, you're pretty much down a person. And in my case, because I had Yukari in the back kind of just like spinning around in circles, I was really down 2 people.
All right, that's tempting. Of course, I only beat the Persona 4 route at some point. I'm taking a break now. At some point, I want to go back. Definitely want to put in Igus. Senkai, we didn't talk about your party setup.
Yeah. Well, so of course I had Makoto Yuki, and then for the second character I picked Akihiko because I needed one for the front row, and he was my romance in Persona 3 Portable. And then I had Shinjiro for the same reason, both same reasons, front person and also romance in my New Game Plus for Persona 3 Portable. And then in the back I had Aegis, which also was the romance in Persona 3 FES.
Okay.
And for the final part I needed a ranged character, and there was no Persona 3 character left except Yukari, which I really really didn't want to use. So I picked Zen and Rei because I thought, hey, these are new characters for the game and I really want to see more of them. So that was my team.
Okay, so we like I mentioned, Zen and Rei, they are characters that you meet up very quickly. They are wandering around, and of course, in typical JRPG fashion, they lost their memory. Like, how many times have we seen that, guys? It's ridiculous.
But I don't remember anything, but I'm really hungry.
Yeah. So you meet up with Sen and Rei. Sen is the guy who's very overprotective of Rei, and Rei is this bubbly, cheery girl that's always eating, making fun. And they actually they share one spot, so they team up, and they basically use one spot and they use these abilities, which I think will bring us more towards the gameplay, which is something that I really enjoyed. So to get back into Persona 3 and 4, what you have there, the main cast has their own persona with their set abilities. And then you have your main character in both 3 and 4 that has the power of the wild card, and he can summon other different personas. Now what they did here in Persona Q is they threw that out of the window and they brought back some old staples from the earlier Persona games, where they brought in the ability to use sub-personas. So this goes for all the characters, except for Sen and Rei, who did not have the ability to use a sub-persona, which is why I swapped them out after the first dungeon. But all the characters, they have their own persona. So for instance, Yukiko, she has the persona that uses a lot of fire spells. But then you could add in one of the, I would say, 100, 150 or so personas out there that you could fuse, that you could recruit, and whatever. And then you can select that to your other character, and that opens up a very wide range and dynamic system where you could make sure to shield some people from their weaknesses. Adding in a sub-persona would also grant you like HP and SP bonuses, and I thought that was a great dynamic. I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was fantastic.
I really liked it as well, actually. Really like the same reasons. But it did reach a point where, I've played through a bunch of SMT games at this point, and certain personas by virtue I just like more than others. Like the second I can make Jack Frost, he's immediately in my party.
Yeah, me
The
too.
second I can make Black Frost, he's immediately. It doesn't even matter if the abilities suck. He just has to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even so, towards the end of the game, part of the reason why my hour count was so high was because I was busy getting personas so I could get to the end game personas that I personally enjoy. But as a personal challenge to myself, I don't use some of the, I guess you could say, OP ones like Trumpeter. I used them in P3 and it broke the whole game. So
Norn, Trumpeter,
Yeah.
whatever end boss, it should be Trumpeter or Norn. Those guys are OP.
But it's like, but just like that ultimately was also part of the challenge too, because it's like, oh, I can make Hellbiker now, and he doesn't help anybody. It's like, but it's like I want him in my party, so it's kind of like with this game, I felt like I had to be able to check myself using this system, because it's like, okay, I don't have the traditional wild card. I can't stack Jack Frost, Pyro Jack, a bunch of other guys, we'll say, for example, and Abaddon, because it just won't work.
Yeah.
So it really made me rethink some of the strategy, because this system, as you said, Mike, hasn't been used in a while.
Yeah, so it was in the original Persona games. They used the sub-personas there. But then, of course, for Persona 3 and 4, they swapped that out. So, any thoughts, Danny, from the sub-persona stuff?
Yeah, I actually really love it. Just be able to customize your other party members, like you said, cover their weaknesses, and I like little details and customization. And certain personas just pair up well with your other characters. Like my Naoto she's like a, of course, light and dark dealer, and also status ailments. So I had Succubus, which she had forgot what the ability was called, to stagnant air or
Yeah.
one that. Yeah, stuff like that, and then I eventually had Alice, which she's always been a favorite of mine, and she just fit with Naoto, and just certain, and I guess I had some of the angels or some of the more high physical attack ones to go with Aegis, so it's just a good match, and I think it was just fun playing around with that. So I love to see this come back in Persona 5. What about you guys?
I would say I think this is definitely a good approach for Persona 5. I would say, because with Persona 3 and 4, I always disliked the fact that I couldn't really customize my other characters that much, and in the end, I relied way too much on the main character, on Makoto.
Yeah, same here.
Exactly. Yep.
I agree. I mean, with me personally, the main character to me is always the utility or the buffer. I mean, even so, like in MMOs, I hate to say it, even though I really enjoy playing a tank class, I always ended up playing a utility character. So, my main character, his job was basically just to keep everybody buffed up. Like he rarely ever attacked, and if he did attack, it was because, oh look, he's weak to fire. Here, poke. There, extra turn. But that was really it. And by not having a whole host of personas just to keep that utility going, I had to spread it out. But at the same time, I'm also sacrificing attack power or defensive power. So it really did open up the box for me a lot. And there was a lot of trial and error with my persona picks, actually. Like I said, I wasn't able to use the ones I typically wanted to use.
All right, yeah, it is one of the, I would say, the better improvements that in the end really surprised me, and that is something that I always really enjoy. At least I notice a lot from Shin Megami Tensei and Persona games is all these little intricate systems that work really well together. Now, before we move on to some other gameplay stuff, I just want to briefly touch upon this subject because I don't think the three of you use this a lot. I was playing on hard, and I think I actually broke the game by downloading the free sub-personas. And there were two free sub-personas. There was a couple of them that were also paid that I didn't buy. But I picked up Kaguya and Orpheus Tellus. And you could... The good thing in the beginning of the game is they were about level 20 or so. And when you're beginning, you can actually summon them for free once, despite what level you are. So they're already helpful there for a lot of SP and HP boost. But since they were very helpful, I used them for, I would say, the beginning dungeon and a half. Then Kaguya got the ability Lunar Blessing, which it costs about 80 or so SP, but it will give the entire party, as long as they're alive. It doesn't work on, like, characters that are KO'd and then get revived. But like for 3 turns, one enemy attacking will nullify the damage, no matter how powerful it is. So if you play against a boss fight, for instance, that only attacks once per turn, then it won't do any damage. And then if you add in Orpheus Tellus, which was actually a fire repellent, and Orpheus Tellus, Mitsuru is weak against fire. It was on her the entire game. She would absorb fire, but it would also have Healing Harp, which if you would put that up, you would have for 3 turns long full status ailments and full HP recovery every turn. And I used this to get through the entire game, and I think it broke. Did you guys use it?
I did.
Okay.
I did as well.
At one point, though, I kind of checked myself. I was like, all right, come on. I was like, come on, let's experiment, man. Let's have some fun. Let's take this shit off for this boss. Let's do this like a man.
Yeah.
And then I got game over, and I put it right back on. I was like, yeah,
exactly.
Forget this man shit. A win is a win is a win, no matter how dirty it is, all right?
Exactly. I was like, I'm playing on hard. Give me whatever I can get.
Well, for me, since I used Zen and Ray, and I used those two, I only had 2 slots left. So when it came to like the Persona fusion and stuff, I only had 2 personas to like customize with. So I constantly moved around Kaguya and Orpheus Tellus too. Like if I got a new persona which had really good ice attacks, and I would put that on maybe the guy who had Kaguya before, just because he needed like ice attacks. So I moved around Orpheus Tellus and Kaguya a lot, but I always had them. And Zen and Ray had no persona, so it wasn't a lot of customization for me. But yeah, such good personas, and I can only imagine if I download the other 2s, which were paid DLC, I wouldn't have any customization at all.
But you know what scared me about getting the paid ones? The example that popped in my head when I even considered it was Fire Emblem Awakening. That XP and Gold DLC they had, did you guys use them at all?
No.
No, I picked up for Fire Emblem Awakening, I picked up like the first 2 free packs, which would give you Ike and Marth.
Yeah, there's one set, I think it's called, like, I forgot what it is, but it's basically the grinding set. You go into a battle and you fight these enemies, and no matter what, you get like 1,000% extra HP.
Damn.
So, and then you do it, then they have one for gold too, where you get like 100% extra gold for every enemy defeated. Wow. And you do that 2 or 3 times, you could take that useless guy with the bucket on his head to
Donald!
actually, yeah, to actually being like viable. So
I know we're
it
talking
totally-
about Persona
it-
Q, but Donald, I
Donald
spent
is
so
best
hard
character.
to level him up in the beginning. It took me 8 hours and so much reloads, but once he got hard,
if
he
you
was
use-
OP.
You use that DLC, he becomes a beast, and
He becomes a beast anyway, you know.
Yeah,
oh well, that the 8 hours of suffering and wrist slitting.
true.
But once you get through that, it's it's totally amazing. But to me, it kind of cheapened it. I was like, I feel bad using him. And I
Yeah.
was like, who could take his place? I'm like, Frederick will take his place. And Frederick literally carried me through the entire game because I was
Until the
like,
last boss.
no.
He's just towards the end.
yeah, because he kind of caps out or plateaus rather. But it's like mechanics like that. That's what stop me from getting the paid Persona DLC. Just because I was like, what if it? I mean, already with the Lunar Blessing, I'm like, this game is already partially broken, and it's out of my own damn conscience that I want to turn it off.
Yeah.
So I
I
figured
just looked it up. The paid DLC is actually Thanatos. He's level 70. And Makatsu Izanagi is level 92.
Oh my god, really?
And I don't even want to know what type of skills they have. So if you can summon these
How
when
much
you're a
are they?
lower level, like Kage and Orpheus Tellus, then that will break the game for sure.
I mean, I guess I would think, but yeah, if you guys do replay through Awakening at all, do not use the gold farming XP. Use the gold farming one. Don't use the experience one because you'll be totally over leveled and it completely eliminates the purpose of grinding.
I never had a problem with gold in Fire Emblem games though.
No, me neither.
Yep.
No, definitely not.
If you need it, I mean, personally, I overgrind everything. Like if there's an FAQ in the case of like we'll say Persona Q for instance, it's like, oh, you should really be 35 for this boss. I'm like, okay, level 50 it is. All right. Let's do this.
I think Joe has a tendency, X Core Muffin X, to do that as well.
It's like I'm not joking when I say if I can't beat him in 3 turns, I'm not doing good enough. That's the rule.
Personally, I tend to do the opposite. So if the guy says 35, I always go for like 32 and feels like I want this challenge, because if like anybody could beat it at level 35, I wanna make it like a little bit tougher. So
You know what I do find in older games though, where they have those suggestions, where it's like I think in Final Fantasy IV, they're like, oh, for the 4 fiends, I can't remember the level off the top of my head, but it's like you should really be 45. I'm like, really? What kind of game are you playing, jerk? You're freaking Cecil Harvey, man, Paladin all the way. But nonetheless, too, it's just I mean, I tend to overgrind just because when I do grind, I'm watching TV or I'm listening to music or a podcast or something. So for me, it's actually very therapeutic.
Yeah.
But then certain games like Dragon Age Inquisition, for instance, I didn't grind as much or do as many side quests because I wasn't sitting in front of a TV. My iPad was probably in the other room. I wasn't listening to podcasts because BioWare environmental dialogue is so good. So, like, the game would say, you should really be level 15. I'm like, okay, level 10. I guess I can go through it. It's a BioWare game after all. How hard could it be? But, I guess it comes down just to the style of game and how you go about grinding out levels. And in JRPGs, I always tend to overgrind.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. And with Persona Q, I felt that the grinding was very natural because I think we can move on to one of the other gameplay aspects is the exploration in the labyrinths, which you have this percentage counter, which for every tile you take will be a certain percentage. If you would get to 100%, there will always be a floor treasure that you could open up that, especially in the beginning, would give you a very good item. Like, for instance, an item that will be permanently to get back to the hub town, for instance. I thought that was done very well, and I maxed out all the floors in the entire game. And that would already naturally give me a lot of experience for, just getting through the game. And only at the end I needed to grind up like maybe 3 levels or so. Did you guys go for the floor treasures, Danny?
Yeah, for the most part, up until the later stages, which we'll get to later. But yeah, I saw the percentage counter, and I was like, well, I'm not really that OCD. Why do I care if I get 100%? Then I open a chest, and it's Recarm, Medea skill card. I can dig this, and yeah, then I went for all the floors up until the later stages when I was just kind of tired of it. But I thought it was a really neat system, and like you said, natural progression as far as grinding. I didn't really felt like I had to grind too much. Only when, like I said, towards the end, I kind of skipped a lot of battles just to get through it, and I got behind some levels. But yeah.
All right. Alex, you used a lot of floor treasures?
For me, I'd say up until the second to last dungeon, I was completely OCD with it. But I alluded this to the guys before we started recording. I tend to take my 3DS with me anyway, so I'm actually capped out on coins half the time. So it reached a point towards the end of the game where I'm like, fuck exploring this crap. How many coins do I owe you to open up this chest? Because you can use the coins.
Yeah.
And it would say like, 15, 20, but if you don't explore the floor at all, it's literally like 180. And for me, which, don't do this, you should explore as much as you can. But for me, 80 coins is not a big deal because I'll get it back in 2 days or 3 days or whatever it is. So I'd say I think the second to last dungeon I used coins once, and then the last dungeon I used it like maybe 2 or 3 times. And I still have 250 as of today.
Yeah, I'm pretty guilty of that. Like a lot of times I'll miss one freaking tile, and it's all the way across the map. It's like, fuck this. Here's your 1 coin, and I did that like a bunch of times.
I was strong enough to not use it, even though there was just one little tile somewhere. But
but you know what else it was too? I think some of the floor puzzles too. It made it like, okay, do I really feel like going through this whole sequence all over again and going through this FOE that I don't have the patience to dance around, and I'll just try to fight it instead, just to get this tile, which probably has a skill card that I probably have 2 of because I pulled it out of different Persona 50 times already. Yeah. So that's what happened to me at one point. It literally.
Senkai, you went for some OCD floor completion?
I did for the first 3 dungeons, and then I realized that the amount of money scaled very well with the percentage. So at first it was like 250 coins you needed, but once you got over 90%, it was like the difference between 90, 91, and 98 and 99.
Like
it was like from 15 down to 3. And I mean like the cap for the 3DS is 300 coins. So I had 300 coins, and I felt like if I pay 15 or 20 coins in the remaining, like every single floor from now on, for like dungeon 3, dungeon 4, dungeon 5, I can afford that. So I went for 90%, and then I paid the rest because like 20 coins times 15, I could still do it, So.
And even then, I mean, besides like puzzle pieces, what do you actually use the coins for? Very few games actually integrate them at this point. At the beginning, I saw it in Soul Hackers, but I never used it.
I capped out 2 of my 3DSs at 300 coins. I think I have actually never used it once. There is one game I used it for, but I can't even remember which one it was.
I mean, because the only ones I have, I want to say Fire Emblem used it, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I thought.
Did Curtain Call use it?
No, I thought it was maybe Kingdom Hearts.
SMT4?
SMT4 for sure.
Yes, SMT4 did. Soul Hackers did. Which actually, this is really funny. All the SMT games actually used it.
Yeah, it seems to incorporate it.
Let's use this mechanic. Nobody else touch it.
Yeah, but I'm sure Kingdom Hearts did it as well.
Yeah, some in the back of my mind, it's like a JRPG, and you get to use like 10 or 20 coins to get some items or something. But
yeah, and I mean with the pets.
Yeah, precisely with the familiars. That's well, that's Ni no Kuni, but
I think Bravely Default did too. Maybe. I'm just looking at my shelf and I'm trying to see what potentially used it.
No, Bravely Default is guilty of using your friend's progress. Thank you, guys. Especially Senkai. Oh well, that's a whole different topic. But yeah. So that's the floor exploration. Let's see what else is there. Oh yeah,
FOE, FOE.
yeah,
Hell
FOE
yeah.
definitely. So, as I mentioned, I'm pretty used to Etrian Odyssey. I know about FOEs. So, what FOEs are is they are, and don't quote me on this, but I guess give this some Latin name to it. But it stands for FOE in Etrian Odyssey.
Fishes Okin Eidolon.
Yeah, something like that. It's something Latin, but it's already a term used in Etrian Odyssey. And what these are is you have your random encounters, your normal enemies, you have the big labyrinth bosses, but on each floor there is always a FOE or multiple FOEs strolling around. And sometimes when they spot you, they would come and attack you, or they have certain movement patterns, etc. And how Etrian Odyssey and also Persona Q incorporates this is you usually, and we'll talk about this, how you guys feel about this, you usually have to avoid FOEs and just puzzle and walk your way around them. And this is how I played it, except for one floor. And I'm really happy. This was in the third dungeon, the final floor. I took the time to beat the FOE, which I actually shouldn't have, and puzzled my way through it. And this is how you go about, and then once you get through the floor, you go a little bit further or to the next dungeon, then you come back and you should be technically, or through game design, be strong enough to beat the FOEs. You will get their items that will give you then better equipment, etc. So this is how I played it. I tend to avoid the FOEs for the most part, or run away from them. While also trying to get 100% floor completion, which, yes, I agree, that's sometimes a little bit tough to lure out FOEs just to be able to get a certain piece of the floor. But let me ask Sankai, because how have you played this game?
Okay, so my story is pretty fun. Akihiko is my favorite character, I'd say, like in the whole series.
Liam O'Brien.
And when the first time you meet AFOE in the game, Akihiko's like, "Oh, it's so nice with a challenge. Let's do this." And I felt the same way, like, "Oh, finally something hard here. Let's go." So I ran straight into it, and I mean, the first FOE was very hard for me. I had to get a lot of crits, block at the right timings, but since I actually managed to defeat it, I got so much XP that the second FOE in the same room, actually, because there were like two FOEs, it was so easy to me because I got so many levels that I mean, it's still a bit hard, but I could definitely finish it a lot easier. I finished that as well and still got a lot of XP, so I was like level 12 or something. And yeah, then from that on, I defeated all the FOEs in the entire game.
Oh, wow.
That's one thing I read too. Like a lot of people, I think it's in the last dungeon. I got stuck on this one puzzle that involved an FOE, and it just reached a point where I was like, you know what? Screw this creativity. I'm just taking it right to the face, and I'm just gonna do it that way. And I literally did it, and it honestly, after the battle ended, it wasn't particularly difficult. But then I found out that I was able to intermingle between Muto and Hama, and then after that I was a little bit more careful about it. But for the most part, like I felt like, I mean, I personally tried to stick with the puzzle solving around them a lot, but when my patience went out the window, I was like, to the face, just to the face. It's worth it, and it was challenging.
Yeah, so yeah, Danny, what type of playstyle did you use?
Probably similar to yours, Mike. I guess I played it the ways the game designers intended us to, and for the most part, yeah, I kind of avoided them and came back later when I was stronger. But I think it was halfway through the third dungeon, I was like, yeah, enough with this shit. I was pretty well leveled, and actually Naoto with her poison was actually a really good skill in this game, and took out a lot of FOEs and bosses. So they had a lot of HP, and yeah, so just drain them away, and a pretty good way to grind. I think I was pretty low leveled, and I need to get to level 55 to get my ultimate personas. So I kind of use them as my grind machine. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm sick of these puzzles. Let me just kill them.
Yeah, okay.
To the face.
except for those damn festival dudes or whatever their names were.
Oh, those were
Oh, yeah.
annoying. Those were
Yeah.
really annoying.
I couldn't take them down. I bet you did, Senkai, but yeah, I couldn't touch those guys.
Yeah,
But
I had
it
to
was
do it
part
for
of a
one
request, so
Yeah.
yeah, same.
There was one request later on to actually beat them, so I went back and tried to handle them, and I got through it after one reload, I would say. But yeah, I think in the end, the only FOE that I didn't beat was the FOE in the final dungeon, which they mentioned very quickly that this is a very overpowered one. So I have not beaten him yet. It's actually one of the last requests I need to do for me to actually unlock the final request in the game. But
You actually have to beat him 3 times, just saying.
woo, that's not going to be a lot of fun, especially when I'm still in level 66, 67 or something.
Margaret doesn't need the information. She's just being a dick. She doesn't.
Yeah.
She doesn't need it all.
Okay. Well, it is interesting to see how, and again, this is again from a game design perspective, is something that I always enjoy about Atlas. They give you either the option to have a challenging puzzle, or you have a very challenging fight. So whichever you prefer, you can go for it. And like I mentioned, I went into this FOE in the 3rd dungeon, which was the old doll, for about. This battle took me 1 hour and 20 minutes, but I wouldn't give up. I had with Lunar Blessing, and I think this would move us into the boost topic after this, but with Lunar Blessing and Healing Harp, I could stay alive while consistently dealing damage, and at some point I finally got through it. It was a very, very tedious and long fight that I shared with you guys on Facebook, but I was very happy to finally get through it, and then I could just walk through the entire floor without any hassle. So it shows you can make a choice. It will be difficult, and it pays off no matter what you do. So very, very cool gameplay style with FOEs. So if you guys like that, definitely check out more Etrian Odyssey. So like I briefly mentioned, let's talk a little bit about the boost system, which is in the gameplay. So Shin Megami Tensei for years now in Persona have been using the press turn system, where say an enemy is weak against ice, you use an ice spell, you would get an additional turn, so you could do another action. And if you downed all the enemies, you would be able to do like an all-out attack with all your parties. However, in this time around in Persona Q, you would have the boost mechanic. So say I would use a weakness or get a critical hit, I would get a boost state on that character, which means that if I didn't get attacked in the meanwhile, on the next turn, I would be in boost mode, where I would have a lot higher percentage of dealing a critical, or, and this is the best thing of all, I would say, is I could use any skill for free. So these are attack skills that use your HP, but of course for me personally, Lunar Blessing, Healing Harp, Abuser is not having to pay SP for any skills. So it was in the beginning a little bit tough to let go of the press turn system, which I've been using for like 10 or 12, maybe even more than that, SMT games for me. But in the end, I thought it was a very fresh system, and later on, yes, I would say the very powerful spells were a little bit broken this way. I would say it should have maybe used like a percentage based, like maybe 75% off a skill instead of just like 100%. But,
yeah, because something got to mention as well is that you don't even need to have the amount of SP to actually be able to use it in the first, like, say it costs 80 and you have 20 as max SP, you can still use it if you get a crit. So
yeah, exactly. That is true. And yeah, I would say that they should have made this a little bit more percentage based, but it made grinding a little bit like I used Naoto a lot, and she had Mudo and Hama for the entire party, or for all the enemies. There were maybe 4 enemies on screen. There were 2 with a weakness. I would down 2 of them, but get a boost state, and then on the next turn I would use another very powerful, or usually they had light and dark weakness characters or enemies in there. And it made it very easy to get through. But I like the boost system, especially when you're in boss fights. You would always be hoping to get that critical, especially when you ran out of SP in the tedious fights. So, Danny, what are your thoughts on the boost system?
Yeah, I'm already a big fan of the press turn system, so I wasn't sure going to this how I feel about it, and I didn't really grasp it at first, but it took a while, and for a game like this where you're in the dungeons for such a long time, and yeah, having this boost system, SP, conservation is pretty much, you know, not an issue since you got your sub persona that kind of replenishes it. So you go into each battle and especially if you have Naoto, I use like Mamudun or Mahaman or whatever, wipe out the whole team, and yeah, no one loses SP. And yeah, there's no better satisfaction than using like a Mejidolan or
Yeah.
like the high powered spell for nothing. So I thought it worked really well in this game. Do I want to see it in future games? I'm not sure yet, but I think for this game it works really well, and I thought it was really neat.
True, true. Senkai, any other thoughts on the boosts?
Well, I thought it was interesting how, depending on how many characters had the boost active at the end of the turn, you could get all out attacks.
Yeah, true.
So like if you used it well, so everybody got the boost, you would get all out attacks pretty much every other turn, which was nice. And also there was sometimes that a single character would do some kind of all out attack himself.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Like a
really
follow.
figure out like why you got those, but they were really awesome. Some of those better than others, but
Oh,
but
definitely.
yeah, the
Mitsuru
whole
was a lot better because she would do like 5 or 6 attacks, or
Yeah.
Shinjiro and Naoto would just do like 1 attack maybe.
yeah, I guess did the same thing. She like just
Yep.
blasted through the whole area. It looked very much like base in Mega Man Battle Network, but anyway.
Yes, that's what it
uh,
was. I was thinking of that the whole time. Like, I've seen this animation before.
I've not played those games, but I believe you guys.
Yeah, very very awesome. But yeah, the whole system was good. I could have like elemental attacks on my buffers to get the buffs for free. Even though I didn't do a lot of damage, I could have like mass iodine just for the boost. So that was cool. I could sometimes like do a weaker attack just to get to save SP. Like mind charge costs like 40. If I would like to do mind charge and Megidoluan, I would do CO first just to get it
Yeah.
more cheap. So
Let me ask you
Uh,
guys this. You guys kept the lower spells like Aji and Bufu just so you could do that? I think I did that just, to save SP.
that was pretty smart. I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did.
I
That's
did
pretty
with
cool.
Maragi, with the lowest level, especially Naoto. She had like in skill cards, which we'll talk about soon. She had Maragi, Mabufu, Mazio, and Magaru, which is like 12 SP or something. And then she would be able to dish out like Medidolaon and stuff.
That's what I did for the main character, so he could just keep buffing for cheap.
Yeah, that is a very good one indeed. But yeah, boost system. Thought it was really nice. Kind of like a improved of the Smirk system in SMT4. For those who've played that, I thought it was done very well. So yeah, let's actually talk a little bit about the skill cards. So it takes a while before you can actually get it. I think it was in the 3rd dungeon. You would be able to get your persona. You would also be able to find skill cards throughout the dungeons, but you would also have your personas, and you could be able to say sacrifice this particular persona you have, and then extract a skill card from them, which would lead to a lot of messing around with fusion, because each main character and their own persona, they have 4 skills that they learn naturally, with some leveling up to higher states. And then they would have 4 free open skill card slots where you could then put in whichever skill card you want, whether it's an HP attack or it's a buff, a magic spell, regardless of anything. If you had the cards, you could use it. I'm going to be honest, I didn't use the system a whole lot. It's not like I decked out, my 5 characters with 20 skill cards. But I put Recarm on you, and like I mentioned, I used the elemental attack alls on Naoto and a few other later on in the game, like some attack skills. Did you guys use the skill cards a lot, Alex?
I used it very little, actually. Like, Makoto, I guess, or, that's not what I named him. But, he had, I think, 2 or 3 assigned. Yukari had 1. Akihiko had 2. Mitsuru had 2. But it was, like, established from the beginning, and it was, like, silly stuff. Like, Mitsuru had Mejidola. I had Meteorama. Yukari, I think, had like Mabufu just for the sake of giving her another element that she could just toss out just to get the push turn. But I didn't really like make it a point to like deck out my characters with any specific set. I felt like the sub personas pretty much. If you do it through fusion and inheritance, you can still get the same result. I felt.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Danny?
Yeah, pretty much piggyback off what Alex said. Between the natural skills you get and the sub personas, if you fuse them the way you want, you kind of get the abilities you want anyway. So that's kind of more than enough. I think I gave my main character like Recarm or like because I didn't want to stick him with like a healing kind of persona, so gave him a couple of those. So I mean, I thought they're neat. I like the inclusion. Was it the Persona 4 Gon when we first saw him?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of breaks the game a little bit. But I don't mind it, but I don't use it that much.
Now, what I'm very interested in, and this is because Senkai has probably did the optional bosses out of us the most. Senkai, did you abuse this a lot, especially later on in the game, because it was necessary to beat the bosses, or just like us?
It wasn't necessary, but I did do it for fun. Since I had less personas to play with, I had the skill cards instead. So I would.
That's a good point.
I would grind P spots to summon personas, to fuse them, to sacrifice them. So I would get like skill cards and everything because that was what was left for me like to customize with. But it was a lot of fun. You could like every time you got a new persona, you would like to get new skill cards to make a very good combo. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Sometimes you could get very good skill cards just for some bosses. I did that once or twice, but I mean, if you really want to, you could get new skill cards for every single boss to make it easier, of course. But I went more for a setup that worked for every boss instead. Felt a lot better in the long run.
Okay. No, I think in general, and this is not to take away from the game at all, because it's like a 60, 70, 80 hour awesome game. But in the end of the day, I wish there would have been like a couple of more requests that would focus a lot on, certain personas with certain skills, like in Persona 4.
I agree with that, actually. I was wondering where that went. Because I enjoyed those because it forced me to experiment. And even so, like, even if you didn't cheat and look it up and you just kept fusing trying to find the persona with that certain set of skills, sometimes you would actually get a really good persona strategy out of it that you hadn't initially thought of.
Yeah. And that's what I liked about Persona 4, because with those requests that you had to do for Elizabeth, those personas that you had to create were actually really useful, especially at that point in the game. So, and to tie that into is like I mentioned, I did not do the final FOE and I did not do the final boss fight, but it feels a little bit like the post-game content could have been an extra dungeon. That is, minor Etrian Odyssey spoilers. There's usually a post-game content labyrinth opposed to the 5 original ones in the main game. So if you want to, you have this 6th stratum they call stratums instead of labyrinths in Etrian Odyssey. I was kind of missing that in Persona Q. I finally beat the game, and there's only New Game Plus, but there's not like very insane amount of post-game dungeons. I don't know. I'm kind of missing that. I don't know how about you guys.
I agree. I do not want to spoil anything, obviously, but at the end of the 4th dungeon, you had a really cool cutscene, and I felt like as it is, it wouldn't fit as an ending, but it could have been the ending if they like tweaked it a bit and made the 5th dungeon a optional one, because I felt done with the game. I was very, very tired of it, but of course I went back and finished it. But I mean, it could have ended right there, definitely.
True. True.
Actually, here's a question I want to pose to you guys. After that fourth dungeon, did you feel exhausted with the game? And I don't mean like bored with it or anything. I just felt like it was just getting to the point where you were just like, oh my God, like it was just getting physically exhausting. Because I personally,
Yes.
after that fourth dungeon, I was just like, I think I didn't touch it for 2 or 3 days after I finished that dungeon. And
Same here.
mind you, I was over leveled. I was just tired.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
no, it's
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Senkai. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I felt the same because I played it every day. More hours, less hours. I mean, it was different from day to day, but I did play it every day. And like once I reached the fifth dungeon, I just like you said, I had to stop for like 2 or 3 days because even though it was a lot of fun, and those 3 days I took off, I still felt like I wanted to go back and play it, but it never became less fun. It was a really fun experience all through, but. Yeah, it was exhausting. It's hard to explain really, but you did get the right word there. It was exhausting.
It's like you want to do something else, but not because you're bored. It's just like you feel like you need to change the pace just so you don't I don't want to say pass out, but pass out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for me personally, I guess we haven't gone to this yet, but it's mostly the puzzles for me. I don't really mind exploring the dungeons and keep battling. But the floor puzzles, by the time the fourth dungeon came around, before it was just it's a dungeon crawler with some puzzles. But the fourth dungeon, it's like puzzle the video game with some random encounters. And yeah,
Yeah.
I was stuck on that floor for a very long time. By the time the last floor came, you just had to backtrack so much. It was just figuring it out and all.
Yeah.
It's not the hardest puzzle, but still.
It's
I
time
gotta add
consuming.
something there actually because what you said there was
Yeah.
really interesting. What made it so exhausting is because it mixes everything up. So now you have to do a puzzle, and it's actually really, really hard. You gotta think, and at the same time, like random encounters doesn't stop. So
Yeah.
while you're thinking and try to really focus, you still have to do these encounters, and some of them are really hard. Like like sometimes they encounter you had Mudo and that shit, but I mean
Yeah.
for me random encounters took a while, and a puzzle that would normally take like 2 minutes could take 10 minutes just because you had to fight at the same time. And
Yeah.
And that
it
even with the random encounters, that's a very classic SMT thing, especially in Nocturne, my favorite game of all time, as you guys know. I say that sarcastically for you people who don't know. The last dungeon of that game is hours long. Like I'm not even joking, and it gives you a save point, not at the halfway point, but at like the 80% point.
Oh my God.
And I kid every mob, every monster, whatever, or every random encounter, Hamamudo, Hamamudo, Hamamudon, Hamanmudon, over and over and over and over. And some of those random encounters, as that guy is saying, it's just you fight it, and maybe you're gonna run away from it, but then it just takes one bad cast
but
to
if you
ruin your
do run
afternoon.
away from it, sometimes you die.
Exactly. It just takes one bad occurrence to ruin your afternoon, pretty much.
Yeah, no, I was very lucky to not get a lot of, honestly, from the second to the last dungeon, except for the last FOE, I didn't get any wipes. But the fourth dungeon, like I agree, I took a little bit break in the middle of the fourth dungeon, for a couple of days to do some other stuff, where it would get on my nerves, where it's a little bit tedious here and there. I never really struggled with the last floor puzzle because I made good notes and I figured it out very easily what the order was. But just exploring that floor, I would do like, because it's split up in like four quadrants, like four sections. I would do one section at one session, and that made it very tedious. Or I was like, okay, uh, yeah, it's time for the next. And I really wanted, and that is sad. I really hope that there would be a floor treasure item that would have no encounters. That would have made the game, I would say, not unbalanced, but especially if you're leveled up, I would say it made it more user friendly if they would have like a no encounter item in it.
Yeah. The game was missing that for sure. Now I'm level 99 and I really don't need any more encounters.
Yeah, exactly. And if you come off a game which I played right before Persona Q and right after Persona Q, which is Bravely Default, where you have the option to actually turn off random encounters whenever you so desire. Um, that is something that I would have definitely saved. Say if there's going to be a Persona Q2, then please have that like towards the 60-70% mark in the game so that you can just focus on the puzzles, and if you want to you can focus on just the battles. Yeah.
You see, personally, even it's funny you bring up Bravely Default. I never turned off the random encounters. The furthest I did was I would put on the lowest setting before no random encounters.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time I really turned that on is when I was leaving a dungeon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not
I
even
see.
going up to a boss. I think at first, I was being a little bit overzealous. I'm like, oh, let's crank this shit to maximum every 2 feet, old school, like the NES. Yeah, and then after a while, I was like, all right, this game's really freaking annoying.
Deep Sea Research Center in Final Fantasy VIII, where every step you take is a random encounter. Good luck.
Or even the classic Lunar games and on the Sega CD and the maze to get to Vane. It's literally like I think it was Vane actually, but it's like every 2 steps.
Oh,
I,
jeez.
I the only sound effect I could think of is the Final Fantasy 4 one of rap rap over and over and over. And
Oh
by the
boy.
time you finally get there, you're just like, oh my god, I'm so tired.
Man, Greg, if you're listening to this, yes, I know he played Shin Megami Tensei, and he Shin Megami Tensei 2, the one on the Super Famicom. That one has some crazy encounter rates. I'm just gonna say that game got really crazy with the encounter rates. Thank God for save states, because 1 minute there's a random encounter, and 1 minute there isn't anymore. So I abused some save states in those Super Famicom games, and some experience multiplier cheats because they're
Innocent
archaic.
Innocent Sin was pretty bad with that actually. The whole game with the
Yeah,
random
the
encounter.
whole game, literally the
The
whole.
whole
I never
fucking game.
I hadn't finished the PSP remake in all honesty, but
It's
Persona 1 I finished the PlayStation 1 game back as a kid, and as a benchmark foundation for the Persona series, it's great. As a game, I fucking hate it.
It's ridiculous. The random encounters in that is.
It's I don't know, it's even like back in the day, I didn't even care for Atlas. I thought they were, and I love Atlas now, but like their localization process, the way they went about everything, they tried to Americanize and Westernize everything. So the whole game was just like this hodgepodge of Degrassi like high school drama thing with science fiction. And I really wasn't into it. So even when Persona 2 came out, I didn't jump on it day one, but when I eventually did play it, I was very happy I did.
Man, I didn't even know Persona and SMT existed until Persona 4 came out. So
Well, it used to be known as the Revelation series.
yeah, I know. I have them all now, but I really I never heard of the games before until like Persona 4 videos and trailers. Like, this is the last good PlayStation 2 Japanese RPG. I was like, oh, let's give it a try. And now I'm sitting here 5 years later saying it's the best and my favorite RPG series, and maybe even favorite video game series of all time. So
But I think that's a tribute to the team that works on the Persona games. I mean, I know at this point a lot of people like it's very, I guess you could say, anime stereotype, but I really like the way they've taken the series. They've managed to make it accessible, but at the same time, as we see within Persona Q, it has just that amount of accessibility, but it can also be hardcore if you really want it to be, I think, at least.
yeah.
Yeah, and to add to that, like I haven't played too many, the SMT Persona games. I haven't played a bad one yet. I love all of them.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
haven't played the first one then.
well, no, I played it on iOS. I didn't beat it, but I liked it. But it's, you know, not amazing or anything. It's pretty good.
I wouldn't necessarily say bad games, but there are three where I was very lukewarm, and those are definitely the ones that I would rank in the bottom. Those are the two Devil Summoner games on the PS2 because they made it a gameplay action RPG-ish.
Oh, those are
And
so fun though.
I'm sorry, as someone who played a lot of Ys, Kingdom Hearts, and Tales, the story was great, but the gameplay was it was a little bit meh. a little bit for me. And then the third one, it's because I played a lot of other ones, and this was the first that came out on the PS2. Nocturne, it was too difficult. It was, the save
Nocturne
states,
is
the save
Nocturne.
states.
It's a very unforgiving game.
Yeah, it is very unuser friendly because it came out like I mentioned. It was the first PS2 one. Like Digital Devil Sagas, they learned from it. The Persona games learned from it. Those are, I would say, my lesser favorites. Um, and yeah, of course, I played through the older ones. They were good for their time. They aged poorly. They're still playable, but they like I mentioned, that you need to play these with like XP multipliers or with
Or
save
a bottle of
states.
Jack Daniels.
Or that, or you're just, or your name is X Corn Muffin X, and you're able to stand this type of hardcore dungeon crawling. Like I
Although,
do dungeon crawl, but not to this amount of extent. I need to have some sort of, user friendliness and some streamlined.
and
Yeah, I'll stick to
listeners,
my. Oh, go ahead.
no, and listeners, if you really are afraid of playing Digital Devil games at all, there's a fantastic localization of the novel in English now.
Oh yeah, I read about that. I still got to check that out.
It's not as bad as the localization they did for the Vampire Hunter D novels. Those were extremely literal.
Don't end up watching the OVAs though, because the OVAs are no. Just,
Those I have.
I want to
have
watch
not.
those though.
they are, yeah. Going off a tangent here, the Digital Devil OVAs. There's two, both tying into the same story. There's Digital Devil and Tokyo Revelation. They are pretty typical 80s low budget OVAs.
Amazing. Oh.
They are no Akira or Ghost in the Shell, that's for sure. But I checked them out. That it's, if you're interested in SMT and Persona, it's fun to check out. But yeah, uh, such a crazy history. So let's see. I'm actually thinking about Persona Q. I think we handled most of the gameplay aspects, I would say, and how the game flows. And that, like, again, I keep repeating myself, but this is what I like about Atlas. All these small little systems, like, it's there. We didn't really talk about it. Persona Fusion, it works like a charm. And the compendium and stuff, all these systems, it works well. You do the requests, you get paid off, you get new items, and you go into the dungeons, you do the FOEs, you get better equipment, and everything just fits together for some reason. But I don't know about you guys. Anything you would like to discuss for the gameplay and how the game is set up before we move into the more spoilerish territory?
There's
Yeah.
one more thing actually, but you can go first, Annie.
Yeah, one thing I really liked, it's not a big inclusion, but I really love to see in future games, uh, the Persona sacrifice. You end up with a lot of these junk personas you already have, and you don't really know what to do with them. In the older games, you would just release them or whatever, and to kind of sacrifice them to increase the level of your current persona, just to get them to the level you want them to be. I thought it was great. You have like 10 slimes or something. You don't know what to do with them. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I really like that actually. So,
That is actually, that's actually a system I did not really use that much, because what I would do with the junk personas is I would actually look for combinations of the junk ones to actually get me a new persona so that I could get a higher percentage on my compendium, instead of sacrificing two of them to level up one persona. Um, it is definitely a system that I would use if I say had 100% compendium, like in a new game plus. Then I would definitely use either the skill cards or sacrifice. But that's actually, I would say, the system that I would use the least amount. How about you guys, Senkai?
That was actually the thing I was gonna bring up. So I was gonna ask you guys, did you level like away from your personas? Because in this game, if your persona is 5 levels below you, you get a 50% damage, or if it was 20% damage off, and if they are 10 levels or more below, I think you get 50% damage off. So like to keep up your your usual base stats, you have to have your sub persona 5 or less levels from you. But I don't know. It seems like every time I had a new persona, I would level so much faster than the persona that I had to summon personas to sacrifice personas to level up my own personas. And I did that a lot actually, and it cost a lot of money. So I had to grind money to summon personas just to sacrifice them to level the ones I used. Was that a problem for you? So yes, Mike, I did use that a lot because I had to. But
I mean, to be honest, like I mentioned, I relied so heavily on Kaguya and Orpheus Tellus that I only had 3 personas. There was only 3 personas that I had to use there, and then I would just naturally fuse them to better ones and take the skills that I really liked. So I didn't really do a lot of persona fusing to make them better until the later part in the game where I really needed like somebody to do a lot of status ailments for the final bosses and do myriad arrows, etc. But towards like the first 4.5 dungeon, every persona would come natural. It would have like natural skills, and sometimes I was like, like the 3 that I had on Akihiko, Shinjiro, and Naoto, like the sub personas, I pretty much used them for the SP and some HP skills, but I've always treated them like fodder. Like I was like, oh, we'll just take them off and then just fuse them up, and then we'll use whatever I get, because I built up the main characters where they had the good skills. So that is something that I would definitely look more into New Game Plus. And if I would do a New Game Plus, I would play it on the highest difficulty, which is risky. I would definitely do that, so I would be probably forced to build up my personas more and level them up and sacrifice them more. I think that is definitely
it's extra important if you're gonna do it at hard, because to lose 50% of your damage done, like permanently, even though you use attacks that are not from your persona, like regular attacks does half damage.
So if say I am level 40 and I used, like I mentioned, I used Kaguya and Orpheus Tellus, and they're like level 30, I would do 50% less damage.
Yes, with all of your attacks.
And I still beat the game?
Yep.
I never noticed that, man. Seriously.
I didn't know that. That there are definitely times where Kaguya and Orpheus Tellus would do like shitty damage. Well, I didn't know.
I noticed it on IGUS for me at one point, because I mean, I think for the uninitiated, one of the things that is really important about SMT games and Persona games at large is personas are expendable. They're not like Pokemon. You don't hang on to them. So don't feel bad about sacrificing them, because you can get them right back if you register, but then that costs money.
Yeah, the companion.
So you're actually encouraged to kill them off or fuse them out. It's just a matter of, like, are your options from fusion beneficial to you? Because there were a lot of times with me personally where I'd be like, okay, I can fuse this, and they all suck. It's it was completely against my strategy. But I think one gameplay mechanic that I particularly wasn't that nuts about was, how you would randomly get Persona cards? I rarely got any that were halfway decent.
Same. So I always used the ones I got.
Yeah,
I agree. Only if you kill an FOE, you get a good one.
Yeah, only on an FOE, but other than that, it's like, yay, a slime.
Yeah, the FOEs, and I would say the going back to a previous dungeon floor boss or like extra boss that was there. That is actually something. Yeah, I was disappointed by the sort of end of battle bonuses that are very heavy in Persona 3, 4, and especially in Persona 4 Golden. You get a lot of good bonuses there, like those mini games. That was actually missing from Persona Q. Now that you mention it.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Honestly, if that came back, I would have been thrilled. I wasn't surprised it wasn't there, but I would have thought they would have given you the opportunity just to get more Persona cards more often, because it reached a point where it was like, everything I can possibly fuse using the compendium has already been fused, and none of them work within my strategy, or they're not within the level range that Senkai mentioned, so they're not even really viable unless I want to gimp myself. So, I mean, that was part of my problem with Aegis towards the end too. The sub persona she had, I kept because I had her with high accuracy and critical hit. So if she used myriad arrows, for instance, or Aeon range, she always got a crit. She always got the push. But then it also did like 10 damage. So it was like, do I take the push
Yeah.
or do I sacrifice the damage? And that's like, okay, maybe I'll fuse it into something else. But nothing came. So I had to grind out until I got, well, Thor, essentially. It was my
Okay.
boy.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I can't really think of the names that I used in the final boss. Like I mentioned, I just everything except for Kaguya and Orpheus Talis is just fodder. There's something we haven't really talked about is the navigators. So
Yes.
just let's briefly talk about that. So you have Risei and Fuka, who are in the main games, are the navigators. They don't fight in battles. And this time you could actually set one or two up for a battle navigator and one as a field navigator. So I used Risei in battle and Fuka in the field. And they can have a sub persona as well. And you would have these sub persona skills that are very, very good in battle. Like, for instance, extend the buffs for 3 turns, which I abused. And
I've used
then,
that as
uh,
well.
and then you would also have the field ones that, for instance, you would also have in the labyrinths, you would have these power spots, these P spots that would give you materials that you could then sell off and get a lot of money for. You would be able to get higher ranked materials there. You would see like shortcuts appear on the map, things like that. I thought it was done nicely, but in the end, I did some fusing in the beginning. I looked at some hints online, like what are some of the good skills to use. And then eventually I had Legion and Fortuna, which had like everything I wanted, like heal at the end of a battle, have the 3 buffs, have like buff your attack and defense on Arise, and then have like, the get the better items, don't get attacked during the item gathering, etc. on Fuka. And I always use them like from Dungeon 2 onwards, because they didn't really need any battle skills or something. Did you use that a lot, the navigators, Danny?
No, I kind of underutilized them actually. I kind of got the one persona to fit them, like you said, Legion. A couple personas, kind of have the natural abilities for those guys. And I actually had Fuka as my battle navigator. I think she had natural battle skills or whatever. And yeah, I didn't really rely on them too much. They healed me a little bit at the end, and kind of just relied on my own sub personas. So I didn't really use them as much as I could have.
Yeah, let's because I used Risei, and Risei had this battle navigator skill that would instantly 100% make the person you selected do the first move in battle. So,
Oh,
say for
okay.
instance, I needed to get like first turn on the spot healing, then that person would use like 1 out of the potential 5 like gauges you had. Uh,
Yeah.
I forgot the name what it was. That was very useful. I don't know what Fuka had as native battle.
She had a lot of healing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did personally with the navigators was I basically sat down with I think an episode of your top 100 JRPGs, and I basically kept fusing and fusing until I made one persona with nothing but support skills for each of them.
Nice.
So those personas just stayed there the entire time, and they were purely used as buff bitches essentially. So Risei, every step I took, I healed. P spots, I wouldn't get attacked, stuff
Yes.
like that. So it would just it worked out great, but then when it came to fusing, I couldn't really use them because the inherited skills were useless for the playable characters.
Exactly.
So I kind of
Yep.
screwed myself in that regard because I was like, yeah, I like same thing. I can't use Fortuna. I have to get another one, but then it won't let me because I already have that persona.
Yeah, sometimes I would throw them into them just to get a new persona for the compendium. But yeah, I couldn't use the skill, so I had to rely on the 1 or 2 other ones to inherit some good skills.
it's kind of a cool system, but I felt like as Danny said, he feels that he underutilized it, but you could use it as much or as little as you want, and I feel like maybe it would give you a boost, but I don't really think it's necessary. I mean, even to an extent that I totally forgot Rise was there unless she said something while I was walking around.
Yeah.
Like, healer, you're running low on HP. Never mind. You already took 10 steps.
Yeah, I think it was just convenience, especially with the P spot gathering, that you would just get more, and that is just for pure convenience once you actually set it up, and then it would never be like a bother. And um, like I had this one skill that I relied on very heavily. That is the 3 buff extender, and then also the one that will 100% escape you from battle. That one I thought was very useful as well. What was it? Escape from battle? You could run away and then escape from battle, or you could, if you use this one, you would go back to the beginning of the floor. So sometimes when I would get attacked by an FOE, I always had that. If you was alive, I would have that as like a last chance. I would get the hell out of dodge thing, so I could get back and save. But other than that, I didn't really use a lot of the battle skills that much, and the navigator was just convenience.
I also think, I mean, I really like that system. Like, once I got the setup I wanted, I really liked it. But, and I think this is maybe me just harping on like modern day game mechanics. I feel like sometimes they give you way too many options and way too many meta systems to the point where it's like you can fully use it and, reap the benefits, or you cannot use it at all and get the same experience. So it's like, is it needlessly complicated or is it there for benefit?
Yeah, no, I can see what you're going for. Yeah, I always feel that Atlas usually it pays off that everything fits together, opposed to you know some
Bioware.
others. Yeah, there's some other series like I'm playing Tales of Hearts R right now, and I'm about 10 hours in, and just today I realized like, oh, you could have these selectable skills to give you buffs, and like I didn't even know it was there, or like the cooking system, for instance, I never used that. Whereas in an Atlas and SMT game, I feel that those systems they are much better utilized than some other series. But oh well, it's always fun.
Have you ever played Tales of Legendia?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I was gonna say if the cooking system in that game, it briefly mentions it, but if you actually take the time to do it, it's one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, there's this cooking system that you can buff up. It literally just mentions it, but if you don't use it, you can go through the game. But if you actually exploit it, it makes everything incredibly easy.
Yeah, the game never reminds you that it exists. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's the thing.
Except for the skits with the cooking, but
Yeah,
those
yeah,
are
of
just like,
course.
yeah, you just think it's just there for giggles.
But those appear if you use cooking. So I mean,
exactly.
those would never happen if you don't. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I've played a couple of Tales games, and I really never really rely on the cooking, but like the skills thing, that was just like mind blown. Like, oh, I could also have like these buff skills. Things like 10% more damage or faster healing times and stuff. Like, wow. Like I had no idea it was in the game. Like I'm already like halfway through it, so.
Is that because the game is like good anyway? You're having fun, so you don't care looking it up?
No, I
or
was just.
what's the case?
I would say it is more like I'm able to get through the game because it is an easier game
Right.
than some other ones. I got through all the boss fights so far relatively easy, and and when I was at this one boss fight with 3 guys that was a little bit tough, I was like, let's do some equipment and then some leveling up, and then I was going through all the menus, and then I saw, oh, there's skills. And then I tried the boss fight again, and then beat it within 2 minutes or something. So, but yeah, it's all these systems that in the end that makes up a Japanese RPG. That is what makes it fun. That is what keeps you engaged to play it, or sometimes it keeps you out of the game because the gameplay systems are just ridiculous, and you just get a bad ending to the game and then just throw it back in the case and never look at the game again and just watch a let's play online.
But you know what though, Mike? I mean, you could probably speak to the Etrian Odyssey parts of this more so than I can. But I do feel like, having played a lot of SMT games and Atlas games, you do see those familiar systems. So it's like sometimes, like, you may think, like I previously said, maybe it's too much, but sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what? I didn't really use this system in XYZ SMT game. I really don't see a need for it here. But by that same token, because it's the same developer, for instance, if I'm playing a Tri-Ace game, I know I can very well break that combat system if I really think about it. Because if you've played any Star Ocean game and you exploit that crafting system, you can literally break the battle system and juggle bosses without them ever attacking you. And to me, that's a game in and of itself using the mechanics. But
Yeah. Yeah, I like to do that. I like to make the most use out of the system that is there. Look for the, like, especially in SMT, just look for the best personas and get a good combination set up. In terms of Etrian Odyssey, the thing is with Etrian Odyssey over Persona Q is here in Persona Q you have the sort of characters that have an element, but in Etrian Odyssey you have a predefined classes. So that there is, there's the defender, the tank class. There is the one very deranged for buffing or for paralyzing enemies, and that five character setup makes a lot more sense. Where in Persona Q, and that is one of the disappointing factors about it, I would say, is in Etrian Odyssey, you had the option to mess around with combinations, and there were some very devastating ones. But here, like I said, I got through the game with my five characters. I had the ability to use a different sub persona, and I would say that Persona Q it's a great spin-off for the Persona side, but it is a pretty weak Etrian Odyssey game. And like I still have not played Etrian Odyssey Untold, which is also already casualizing Etrian Odyssey. Uh, they made it more user friendly, more easier for people to get into. So I don't know how easy that game is. But Persona Q, it felt like a good spin-off for Persona, but a very, very bare bones, straightforward Etrian Odyssey game. To me, at least.
gotcha.
So if you want more challenge, and especially the character side, like the character party building and which skills do you use, and how you can get through certain boss fights, etc. That makes it a lot more fun because in Etrian Odyssey you have about, I would say, 7 or 8 base classes, and then slowly but surely throughout the game you will unlock maybe 5 to 10 more, which could lead to some very interesting combinations.
So you're saying if I like this was my first dungeon crawler. If I go from this one to Etrian Odyssey, I might not have the same strong story, but it's so much better in gameplay that it would be pretty much the same, like as good experience. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. The labyrinths are, I would say, the labyrinths are the themes are less awesome, and we'll talk about this in the Sparta part. The themes are very very obvious in Persona. They could go for some really cool ones, whereas in Etrian Odyssey it is usually a lot of nature themed ones. There's the forest one, there's the fire mountain, etc. All that types of stuff. But in terms of the floor design, etc., there's some very unique stuff there. FOE and especially boss fights, they can be a lot more challenging, where you will really have to figure out what types of skills to use. And like for instance, there's the Ranger class. I didn't really use it in Etrian Odyssey 4 until I really needed to, and then you find out that you can actually paralyze a boss, and then you can just wail on him. And maybe talk to Joe as well, Corn Muffin. He's very big on Etrian Odyssey as well, and he will agree with this, that the gameplay is a lot better in Etrian Odyssey, especially with the
Cool.
whole party building, etc. Yes, there's no story except for Untold. Again, haven't played it, so I can't really comment on it. But the party building mechanic is much much stronger here.
Just don't go right into the dark spire. You'll never ever. That is a gauntlet,
Oh
to
my
say the
god.
least.
That one, I still cannot believe that is the first person dungeon crawler I played. But since it was the first one I played and I had no reference point to anything else, I would just play through it. And like I mentioned in the story, in the Era's Top 100 Japanese RPGs, there were a couple of guys.
Yeah.
They were playing it at the same time. It was so challenging. Like, okay, you got that floor. Like, I got to get there as well. No job, etc. At that time, I got so obsessed with that game. But that game is really, really difficult. That is like Etrian Odyssey on crack. And the only good thing about the Dark Spire is you have the ability to save everywhere. So after every step, you could save. And that was a godsend compared to Etrian Odyssey and Persona Q, where you need to go back to the hub town to save your game, or at the end of a dungeon.
Yeah, and I would say going from Persona Q to that, I'm not gonna say it's a rude awakening, but it's definitely very different, I would say.
Yeah.
That's just me.
So would you recommend, since I haven't been playing these many first-person dungeon crawlers, would I guess the Etrian Odyssey games just be a natural, I guess, progression?
Yeah, I would say, and I am
Magic 6.
yeah, like the first Wizardry, or what was the one from Software, a Kingsfield or something like that.
Oh, no.
I've not played those, but I know by heart that those are ridiculous. No, I would say, and I have a feeling that Etrian Odyssey Untold is a very good way to get into. I'm assuming it is, it has the story. It is a little bit more user friendly. Other than that, Etrian Odyssey 4 was fantastic. I really enjoyed that one. You won't go wrong with Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey on the DS. That one was a really good one as well. Really great setting. And again, it is not Atlas, but I am extremely surprised at how much I enjoy Demon Gaze, and hopefully in a couple of months, Operation Abyss as well.
I was actually pretty what do you say, surprised by how much you enjoyed Demon Gaze as well, because I've watched my girlfriend play through the game, and I listened to you talk for it about like 20 minutes, and I don't see how you enjoyed that much. Like you said something about being 70 out of 100. It feels very much stronger than it seems, but I guess it's more than meets the eye.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's like in the end, it's now on my list in the 60s, in the 70s. It is just that I never played I like the Darkspire, and I never played anything else except for Etrian Odyssey and some SMT stuff, first person dungeon crawlers. So here was this completely new company, and of course, it is there on the box. I know it's not developed by them, but it says NIS America there. So I was going into this like, this is going to be a shitty game. I shouldn't have bought it. And then it turns out like, okay, I actually like the demon mechanics in there, and had some solid floor designs. Etrian Odyssey's floor design and Persona is much better. But in the end, I enjoyed Demon Gaze like a solid 60s, 70s game, and
I see.
it wasn't the most difficult one as well.
But also, Senkai, I think it also comes down to genre as well. I mean, I can remember years and years ago watching gameplay of Diablo 2 and just being like, this is the most boring looking thing I have ever seen. And then I got the game and I was obsessed. I mean, I didn't go as obsessed with the online portion with BattleNet all those years ago, but I understood what made it so much fun. I think it's one of those things you may just have to experience, and then, you can assess if it's for you or not. I mean, another example, Gundam Breaker, which I think is probably one of the best Vita games I've ever played. Looking at it, it looks so freaking stupid and simplistic. But once you start playing, you just become obsessed. You're like, oh my god, I need to get more unicorn parts. I think before you know it, 30 hours have gone by.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's true. In the end, gaming, some games you have high expectations for, they disappoint you. Some games you have low expectations for, they surprise you. It's sometimes it happens. I have a I would say, a good natural instinct. Sometimes I'm a little bit too picky, but I knew going into Persona Q that I knew I was going to love it, and lo and behold, it is truly, it ended up being my game of the year because it's the game that I played the most and had the most fun out of last year. And I know you guys enjoyed it, not to the same extent that I did, and that's because Bayonetta 2 came out, but...
Well, I do agree. It is also the game I played the most, and I mean, it was so fucking good, but it didn't have the biggest impact on me. So that's a little spoiler what might be my game of the year, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, but I'm happy that you guys, all play through it, and I really hope that this game will. I know they're a very tedious genre, but I hope you guys will get a little bit more interested in first-person dungeon crawlers, or as I recently found out, this subgenre is actually called the Dungeon RPG, just Dungeon RPG, DRPG in Japan.
Okay.
I really got to start calling it DRPGs instead.
Sounds a lot better. Like easier to say.
Dungeon
First
RPG.
person dungeon crawler.
Yeah, let's see. We have DRPG, we have ARPG, we have SRPG, we have CRPG, we have WRPG, we have JRPG. What else?
What is the CRPG?
Computer RPG.
Okay.
I've heard that thrown around, but when I read it, I read it as console, which is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's MMORPG. I don't know what you call roguelikes though. That like roguelikes.
Roguelike.
Roguelikes are roguelikes.
It's a genre that I haven't really got into. It wasn't on my list. Final Fantasy Chocobo's Dungeon on the Wii is my favorite so far.
That game is surprisingly fun, as silly as it is. But Shira and the Wanderer is my personal favorite. I never finished it because I had a mishap and I never went back to it after that.
See, that is the thing with those games. It's when you die in those games, it's game over, man. Game over. You gotta go at it all over again. But here we have Etrian Mystery Dungeon coming out in a couple of months.
That I'm really excited for. Personally.
Yeah.
I think I'm more so excited for that than I was for Persona Q. I think.
That's cool.
Because I haven't played a mystery dungeon in a very long time, and the closest thing I've gotten to that roguelike thing is I'm currently playing through hardcore mode in Diablo 3 with Steven the Laggy Gamer, and he suffered a mishap, so I'm waiting for him to catch up a new character. But in the meantime, we're in our 40s, and I'm playing Crusader, and there's just like a certain rush because having played a tank a lot in MMOs, my natural instinct is to run into a group of enemies and taunt them. And then after I do that, I'm like, oh shit, if I die, that's it.
Yeah,
so it's like constant stress, but it's like it's oddly enjoyable, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's true. Danny, you played any roguelikes so far?
0.
Yeah, it's Senkai you as well, or?
Chocobo Dungeon, just like you said, I think it's really good. For the Wii, I haven't touched it for PlayStation, so that's also why I haven't played the second game. But yeah, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, really good stuff in my opinion.
Yeah.
They are like, they're not like Pokemon games at all. So in these games, the Pokemon are actually characters, so they talk and they have personalities. So you can just forget they are the Pokemon they are. So it's just a Pokemon reskin. It could have been an entirely different game, but the mechanics are really good and they're a lot of fun to play. So I think it's also a very good roguelike to start with, I'd say.
Yeah, the which one was it? The Explorers of the Sky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I haven't finished either that one or the Gate of Infinity, but the Explorers of the Sky, I think, from what I played, I had the most fun with.
Yeah, it's really good.
But Gates to Infinity, it's very chatty. Like every Pokemon feels like they have to give you their life story every time. It's like, hey, Tepig, my name is Tepig, and I'm here to tell blah, 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 6 hours later.
All right. Well, that's, roguelikes, I'm very excited. I haven't played them in years, so Etrian Mystery Dungeon. It's coming out in April, so well, maybe I'll get a kick out of it. I'm going in with very low expectations, and if it's frustrating me, I'll give up on it. But I'm picking it up.
By the way, Azure Dreams might not be a roguelike, but
that is
something
a fantastic.
something pretty close. But it's a very, very good game.
It's like roguelike, town building, Pokemon. It's like 5 different genres all in one. There's monster raising, town building, relationships, and it has roguelike element. It's a fantastic game.
I've never played this.
That's a true hidden gem.
That is, yeah. That is but it's very old and archaic. Like I tried to play it a few months ago. I wanted to, because I never finished it as a kid, and I was like, oh my god, this is old.
I see.
But it's still really fantastic.
I see. It's a PS1.
You just have to have the patience with some of those archaic mechanics. You have to have the patience with it.
I see. So for those who are unaware, it is a PS1 RPG developed by Konami. It looks interesting, but PS1 RPG, those might not have aged well. But
those are often the best as well. So
true.
Mechanically,
Give it a
didn't
shot.
age well, but game-wise, I think it's well worth the time.
Okay, Azure Dreams. I gotta add that to my my bucket list of RPGs, which I should upload in a little bit. All right, we got off an interesting tangent there. You guys got more than you bargained for. It was originally a Persona Q. So I would say let's move on to round out the episode to some Persona Q story spoiler discussion. So for those who don't want to get spoiled on some of the events, we are going to be talking about some of the fun events that happen, banter off about it. So if you've played it, please stick around. If you haven't, you don't want to get spoiled, then please go away. We don't need you here. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely check out Persona Q. Thanks for listening if you don't want to check out this part. But hope you guys enjoyed it for the ones who are leaving right now. And other than that, let's delve into some stories. So let's just start with Danny. What would you like to discuss from the story elements?
Geez, I don't really know. I guess for the most part, until the big twist towards the end, wasn't really much going on. You got little hints of it's mostly revolved around Ray and Zen, right? And they got amnesia, kind of, and
Which is unheard of.
Yeah,
just like those star players. No, never mind.
I'm just gonna
Star player of the Xander Cadaves?
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I don't know about you guys, but when I was playing the game, I never felt that Zen, he definitely had amnesia, but I felt that Ray was faking it.
Yeah, same here actually.
Yeah,
like she would be really like oh no, I have no amnesia as well. Like it was very obvious. At least to me, I've had that feeling. I don't know about you guys.
I personally called the twist several hours before it actually happened. Based on the items that you receive after those bosses, I literally was sitting there one morning and I was just playing it just before work and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna say it, but there you have it. And I was just like, well, if I'm right, then wow. And sure enough, I was right. And it didn't take anything away. I just think I've seen games and movies with this sort of motif before. I didn't know who Zen was exactly, but with Ray, I pretty much called what was going on with her.
Interesting.
But he was an interesting twist. And even the final boss, I was like, okay, this is going a little bit out there.
I honestly, I didn't see it coming. And I would say the game also, from a story perspective, we'll get into the funny banter between the cast 3 and 4 soon, but the main story, it kind of lulled me to sleep because there wasn't a lot. And then when the 4th dungeon was completed, and then you got that story twist. We're in the spoiler part, so you don't have to hide it. But when they talk about it and then what happened in there, I really didn't see it coming. I knew, of course, that there was, there was something about them. 2 weeks before it, I was playing Ultimax. They have new characters. They're integral to the plot, and the same was happening in Persona Q, of course. But yeah, I didn't really call the twist of what was going on. It was, I can't really remember what my initial ideas were. Usually I have an idea. I can't really think about it anymore. No, I didn't call the twist, but I thought it was a good one. I thought it was the fun story and touching as well, and you really felt for the characters. While my cats are going crazy, ruining this recording. It really got me pumped up to continue on and do the 5th dungeon.
I do think, though, between Arena, Ultimax, and Persona Q, I think part of the, I guess you could say that. Have you guys finished I know Mike has, but Ultimax and Arena. Danny, have you finished both of those?
I
Nope.
didn't play through the P3 storyline in Ultimax yet, so.
Okay, so I think
I just want to throw this out there before we continue. The way Ultimax storytelling is set up, I have zero respect for it. How they built up that game, that you had to go through the P4 route, and then once you finished it, you had to go through the P3 route, thus ruining all the surprises that you'd already seen in the Persona 4 route.
Exactly.
Makes no design sense at all. I'm sorry.
What I think these games are trying to do, or what the writers are trying to do, is they're trying to establish the fact, and they probably reestablish it at this point, that Persona 3 and Persona 4 occur in the same universe, several years apart. But I do think the way that they introduce certain characters, they're leading into, this is my own crazy conspiracy theory, that they're leading into Persona 5, which will also be within the same universe, I think.
I hope. I've been running on this theory for a very long time, especially when I beat the first Arena. I'm really hoping that they are going to be tying all the preceding games so far, give us some new characters, instead of just doing a standalone Persona 5. But this morning it was announced that Persona 5 news is coming early February.
Yeah, what was it, 30 hours?
Yeah, they apparently they're going to be streaming like 30 hours of Persona content, not just Persona 5.
No, of course not.
I hope it's 30
still.
hours of dancing all night.
In like not like in one day, but in like the upcoming weeks and months, they're going to be releasing all sorts of Persona tidbits, probably lots of dancing all night as well, and some plays and some food chains, and get some Yukiko pancakes and stuff like that. But Persona 5 news is imminent.
But this is what I see. I mean, each of the games has a color theme to it as well, with Persona 3 being blue and Makoto having blue hair, and then Persona 4 being yellow, and then the remake, quote unquote, being called the Golden, and Yu's hair color being like a very like a silver, which I think is kind of, it's kind of awkward in that case. But I've been trying to figure out what the color symbolism behind Persona Q is, because I can't figure it out. But in Ultimax, one character has red hair, and I think it's towards the end of that, it's mentioned like, we'll see him again someday, but the theme for Persona 5 is red.
Yeah, true.
And I know I'm totally overthinking this. I'm probably completely wrong, but considering that they do tend to go for those sort of themes, to me it makes sense.
Yeah, it would be nice to like I've mentioned this before, that there's many series right now gearing up towards like a series conclusion. We've seen it with Metal Gear. Kingdom Hearts is going that route, like to tie everything that has come out so far, timelines. And I hope Persona is going to do the same thing. They shouldn't ignore the fact that Persona 1, 2, 3, and 4 are there. These characters are definitely in different timelines. For some reasons, they aren't in Persona Q, which are explained. But I would like to see these characters making a reappearance, and they have always been hinting at like this overarching evil bad guy, and they mention there's this evil bad guy in the Persona series that might or may not make a reappearance, and all these spin-offs, I hope Persona 5 will deliver on that. I hope.
Well, they do reference Persona 2 and Persona 3. through one of the social links, which I thought was really cool because I remember when I did discover that social link, I was like, why does this all seem very familiar? Because it'd been several years for me, but after a while, I was like, oh, okay. But as for the overarching villain, it can only be Jack, as far as I'm concerned. He's the source of all the world's problems, as I see it. But that would be a crazy crossover. Shin Megami cross Final Fantasy X.
Of course, also Final Fantasy X of all games.
Yeah, not 9, not 8, not 7. Just 10.
It turns out that Inaba is actually in Spira.
And Auron is really wearing an Igor mask.
Well, I don't think that will happen. Except
yeah, I don't think so either, but you know.
Should we discuss Igor, by the way?
Yeah.
He's not in the game, so I thought it could be interesting.
Yeah, there's apparently this thing going around where the Japanese voice actor, he sadly passed away, and out of tribute.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I heard something about this. I haven't really delved into it this much, but apparently he passed away, and they are trying to limit Igor as a character. Now, I understand that is very very nice that they do that, but from a story perspective, it doesn't really make sense to just make the character disappear.
Yeah, just based off the voice actor, it doesn't really make sense.
It's not really necessary, but I would say I've always been interested why this Igor guy is there and why he is pushing me forward. And is he either a good guy or he could be like a villain? That would be interesting.
I mean, he could technically be, again, overthinking it, this overarching villain or entity or some sort of like spiritual being that, is really just setting all these quote unquote wild cards in motion for some sort of earth changing event.
Yeah. And
considering he even says he can't interfere, he can only influence.
Yeah, exactly. And I really hope that, and again, this is, I've been talking and hypothesizing this for a couple of years now. I really hope that Persona 5 is going to be like this all-out war with every character that we've seen so far, and then introduce some new characters as kind of like the ones for newcomers, etc. And then, create some sort of epic thing. But on the other hand, if it turns out to be just an isolated game like Persona 3 and 4, new cast of characters, new story, I'm totally okay with that as well. But I really do hope that they're going to that route.
Well, I think, to me, it just doesn't make sense of trying to, establish. I mean, yes, Persona Q itself is, in essence, a crossover of two different Persona games and a gameplay style, and two different gameplay styles. But which Atlas, pretty much publishes on both ends, so they have the ability to do so. But I feel like the Persona team. I know this wasn't made by the Persona team, but I feel like having them in some sort of like a consulting role, there has to be a whole reason behind the whole thing. And I see Persona Q as reaffirming, yes, this is the same timeline, or they exist within the same universe, which explains why there isn't that really stupidly awkward occurrence when they meet up in the arena games.
Yeah. Yeah, they totally explain that.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I would even say, like, Mitsuru shows up in her frickin' fur coat. And, nobody is surprised by this. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, you're Persona users too? Oh, okay. Because I think it's Elizabeth, or is it Margaret? Maybe it depends on which playthrough, that you won't remember anything. And then one of the main characters, or maybe it is you, says, I have a feeling we'll meet again one day. So it makes sense.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. It's just and then we have Dancing All Night throw in here as well, which is technically.
I can't wait for that.
Technically, from a story perspective, it will technically take place after Persona 4 Golden.
So that is canon.
I heard that it was going.
Teddy had a dance off and invited everybody.
I don't know if it's going to be canon, but I just know that it's, of course, taking place at the end of Persona 4 when Rise wants to get back into the idol simulator I just hope that she doesn't gonna end up an AV idol. Please not.
Wow.
Oh,
But
so
yeah,
funny.
dancing all night.
I'm actually
The,
excited for
the
that.
people laughing right now, you know what you're doing. You're being bad on the internets. But yeah, dancing all night. I'm really excited for it. I love my rhythm games, and yeah, maybe some new stuff in there. But that Persona 5 news, man.
Is Shoji Meguro doing the music for P5?
Of course,
Thank God.
of course.
Hey,
He.
speaking of music, we didn't really talk on the music for Persona Q actually.
We really
Oh
did.
yeah. No, we didn't really we didn't talk about the presentation. So soundtrack wise, I really liked it.
I love the battle theme for both P3 and P4. I listen to both constantly.
It's Meguro. I mean, as somebody
There's a
as
there's a
somebody who's
different battle team for Persona 3.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
slight. Yeah.
Ooh. Gotta.
It's the Persona 3 singer instead of the Persona
Yeah.
4 girl.
Okay.
And
I've listened to the soundtrack before the game came out, so I might have heard it already, but I gotta check that out.
Shoji is a very I mean a lot like I'll say like my girlfriend is like, what is this dance music? And I'm like, oh, this is the fight theme, for Persona 3, with his Japanese hip hop. But he's very good at fusing different themes. I think I as a songwriter, I think he's fantastic. So it doesn't surprise me that there's some slight nuances for the music in battle between the two different routes.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
I will say, out of all the music he has written, the Catherine soundtrack is my least favorite. But I think he went a little bit too over the top with it, with the symphonic stuff. But that's
True.
just
There's
that's
very
just,
few tracks in Catherine though.
Yeah, there's
I
not a lot.
know, but even then, it has like a very symphonic
But,
remix to it. I guess is the right word.
Yeah,
the
it's
bar
very
theme,
basic
the
stuff.
stray sheep bar theme, that's probably my favorite one from the game. I
Yeah,
forgot
that
the
one's
name of
really
that.
I just like the in Persona Q. I really like the hub world music from Persona 4 so much that I didn't even actually want to leave the game.
Yeah, you said that at first, I remember, and I do agree.
Didn't want to go into the labyrinths, especially in the first dungeon, the Alice theme. It's a little bit, it's more, it's thematic, but it's not like kick-ass Persona J-pop. But yeah, the soundtrack is what really adds to this game's awesomeness. Like, I don't want to play these games silent or without the Persona music. It's not a selling point, but just the fact that it's there and it's really good, that makes it all the way better.
And it's very different than compared to like your typical like JRPG music. I mean, maybe this is a poor example, but Monokemia NIS, the game music itself is very nondescript, very. It's
Can't
just there.
even remember anything from that
No,
game soundtrack.
but when you get into the battle, there is some outrageous metal going on.
Yeah, I've played through that game halfway through, but
I mean, I think it's, if I remember right, you should look it up later. It's the song, I think is called Disruptor. Like, I was like, whoa, where did this come from? Like, I would just sit there in the menu and I would just be like, okay, well, eventually I have to kill this thing. But, it's like, but again, that's very like, it's a battle, it's a boss, they pump you up, they give you energy. While with Shoji Meguro's writing style, he's kind of making you just like bob your head along to it. You know what I mean? It's a very much a loose, I guess you
Yeah,
could say,
for sure.
music style.
yeah, it's just fun. It's just there, and I enjoyed it. By the way, how did you guys enjoy the well, of course, a little bit scaled down, more chibi-esque graphical style of the characters?
I thought it worked well for this game, and I guess based on the humor and how they presented all the characters, I thought it fit perfectly. I thought I wouldn't like it at first, but yeah, it just worked for this game.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was a little bit concerned at first, but never really bothered me down the line. Any comments from the other guys?
I liked how they looked, but the the amount of detail on the characters was very poor. It's not a problem for the 3DS because we have games that are Brave default, so I cannot blame the system. But uh, but when you look at people's hair and stuff, it's usually like one single color for the shirt and another color for the hair, and like they
Yeah.
were so basic. I mean, I liked the proportions and everything. They were very cute, but I would love a lot more detail if they make a new game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree on that. I mean, if you look at like the SD Gundam, which is, super deformed Gundam. I mean, if you look up like screenshots of the way they look in game, they look like literally the full-size Gundam scaled down. These characters look more like caricatures than scaled down chibi versions of their, original design choice. Especially if you have the art books, then you're like you notice everything that's missing from those chibi characters.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely went for a simplistic approach, and I think it's also due to the fact that it's on the 3DS, and it is being treated as a spin-off game instead of a main game, but never
Which is
really.
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. I'm not saying like, damn you, game, this is ruining my. No, I'm just saying, like, it's a design choice. It's just, would it necessarily be my primary design choice? Not really, not so much.
Yeah. So speaking of the visuals, to round it out, we of course have the labyrinths. There are 5 labyrinths, and as these are the spoiler section, so we have the Alice in Wonderland theme. We have the second theme that I can't really.
Group
That's it.
date.
The group date. Thank you. We have the horror theme. Then we have the sweaty man.
The bathhouse.
The bathhouse.
Inaba, what's it called?
Yeah,
Pride
the
Parade.
Inaba
Show
exhibit.
Anarchy Land, as I called it.
Yeah, Joe Anarchy Land, indeed. And then the 5th was the clock tower. I'm just gonna list out my favorite, and that was the horror theme. I thought that was. I'm seriously, I was frightened. The first.
Yep, same for me. Horror house and the group date because of the Catherine references. I love answering those questions and seeing the reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Really? You picked that?
Yeah.
That's what I thought too. And to go back to my wacky conspiracy theory, Vincent does appear in Persona 3, so I think he's within the same universe as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that he's in Persona 3 Portable before Catherine came out. He's in the bar. You can meet up with him.
And Liam O'Brien does voices for every character now. Sorry.
And I was just, it was right around the part where the Persona 3 and 4 cast met up and they started having fun. And, they have this little shooting gallery thing and they had like sheep there.
Yes.
From
yes.
Catherine, I really cracked up about that. That was really awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of the group date, that is actually really fun. It is a very fun event where in the second dungeon, you have to answer questions and you get paired up. So I'm interested to find out which you guys wanted to pair up with and then who you paired up with. So I'll go first. Of course, Yuna Arkami, I played as P4. There's nobody else except for the ultimate waifu, which is Mitsuru. I really wanted to get with Mitsuru or with Yukiko. And in the end, I got Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was actually the I was lying in the hands of Elizabeth, so it was a little bit strange. Where Elizabeth wasn't really the female part, I would say, but
I can really imagine Elizabeth being that way, though.
The group.
it was really strange. So, and I haven't really looked at like a guide or something because it takes place over multiple floors. I tried to reload my save that I had before and just answer the final question different. I did that twice, but I still got with Elizabeth, so I don't know how it was predetermined. But I thought it was fun. I actually have the art book for Persona Q that actually has like all the combinations and pictures of it. But that's what I hooked up with. So Danny, which ones did you get or wanted, and which ones did you get?
Well, obviously, Chie, my personal waifu, didn't get her, of course, and I didn't know the outcome this wedding thing. I just answered the question, that would get me the funniest reaction. So I guess one of the first question was, if you care what your preference was, like male or female. I said both or something like that. And what was so funny, they pan into Kanji, and he was like, "What are you looking at me, damn it?" Like, that's just so funny. And in the end, I got Akiko. And
Nice.
I was the bride, he was the groom. I think because I answered the protein as one of the answers, thinking I would get Chie, but yeah,
Oh yeah.
No, you have to answer meat.
I got Akiko.
All right, Alex.
Well, I thought immediately no good can come of this, and I told myself, I said, ideally, I would like to end up with either Rise or Mitsuru because I like Rise's character, but I love Mitsuru's personality. And I knew immediately I will not get either one of those two. And I actually ended up with my least favorite character. If you care to guess who that is.
Ken?
Koromaru.
No, no, Koromaru's cute. All right, leave Koromaru. I had a Shiba, actually. I had two growing up, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
No, Shinji.
Shinji. Okay.
But it was like so out of left field. It was just like even he was like, really? You haven't even put me in the party. Like, I'm like, I don't know what happened. And even he was like, it's like his dialogue was funny because he's like, I have no way to explain this.
Senkai, which ones did you want it and end up with?
Okay, so the one I wanted, Shinji.
Really?
But I thought like that's no way. Like I'm not the female main character right now, which I prefer in Persona 3.
Oh yeah, this is true.
And that's also why I prefer Shinjiro. He has a exclusive New Game Plus ending, where he survives and everything. It's really cool. But I meant like as the male Persona 3 main character, it's not possible. So I felt like it would be cool for him to hold Aigis. I mean, she got to be pretty heavy and stuff. So, but okay. So I went for Aigis first, but then these like gay questions came up and stuff. So for fun, I just like picked the straight answer, and yeah. So Shinji was holding Makoto, and it looked really funny.
Who did you guys Well, I already know who Senkai romance. Who did you guys romance in P3?
I played through Persona 3 Portable once, and I'm going to say that I romanced Mitsuru, but I am not 100% sure. I think I did. I of course romanced every girl in Persona 4 Golden, and Yukiko the first time.
Yeah, Yukiko was my first time in that one as well. I mean, I went with Yukari, and it seems like nobody likes Yukari except me.
Nope.
I'm not. Yeah, Yukari is. Yeah.
A bit.
I thought, listen, she had a tough childhood, okay?
She did. She did. I understand her for it, but that doesn't mean that you have to act like a fucking bitch all the time.
That's okay. Somebody can remove the pickle.
It was Yukari social link number 9, I think, is what I can't. I just can't because.
What was
just
hers?
like,
It was lovers, right?
yeah, something happens like in the end of her social link where you get to pick from something very very sad happens, and you choose 3 things, and like I've tried them all out, and she gets mad at you whatever you choose. So and then your social link goes down to 8, I think.
Oh wow!
No.
And I'm like, oh man, I can't stand this character.
Oh man.
She's not that bad. She's just misunderstood.
Yeah, I see.
That being said, though, when I do replay Persona 3, which I do want to do, I am definitely doing the female protagonist. But for me, it would be Akihiko in that case. In all honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really on my list to do Persona 3 because many of you guys have talked quite highly about the female main character. Thank you, Senkai, for spoiling that, by the way.
Uh-oh.
That is,
No.
I have to throw that out there. That was just, no, it's not. It's fine. It's fine. Like, who dies in a video game anyway? People come back all the time. It's not like real life.
Well, you know who did die and came back from the grave in a certain sequel that everybody likes to retcon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. That was a stupid decision as well.
I told you I'd find another way to link it back in.
Yeah. They were talking about Ultimax here. But in any case, I really look forward to replaying Persona 3 Portable as the female main character. And I still hope that this is my dream, that you can actually romance Yukari and they're happy lesbians. And I just...
I think Yukari would definitely be the man of the relationship. Just saying.
I think she definitely will.
Or the alpha. Sorry, let me be. No, actually, no. That's not it. That's even less being politically correct. But I think she would wear the pants of the relationship.
Wow.
There's some thumbs downs on your video.
Well, there's nothing wrong with lesbians. So, you have it in Mass Effect as well. So no problem there. In any case.
The FemShep playthroughs are so much better too.
I still got to do that as well.
They're so much better.
Yeah,
I really got to get onto that as well. I just hope for Mass Effect trilogy on my PS4 or something.
Before we move on, though, about the spoiler, it's pretty cool because it's not something that will happen in your game, like when you play through it. So you don't have to worry. It's actually a bonus that you have to do everything correctly in the New Game Plus. So you have to beat That's the Girl twice. So I mean, it's not like something that's gonna happen. So don't worry. But...
Also, I need to beat the female main character route twice.
Or finish it. That's the guy, and then pick New Game Plus.
That's what I'm gonna do. I
and then do a lot of certain things as well.
Still. Lots of things.
Don't never whistle.
Dodge lightning for 200 times. And I'm not talking about real lightning. No, I'm talking about lightning Claire Farron. She's haunting you. You gotta dodge her 200 times. All right. So yeah, that is the romance date.
One more thing. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. No, go ahead.
So I went back and YouTube the rest of the your pairs, and I think Teddy was the funniest one I saw, because he was just so happy and he was so shy and he was really into it. He's like, "Oh, Sensei, are we gonna get married?"
This I gotta look up on YouTube.
Look it up, man. It's the funniest shit ever. He's like, "Oh man, I always wanted to get married."
Here's a question, Teddy. I've heard his Japanese voice, and I have to say, while it does fit the character, I really prefer the way the English voice actor does him. I think he does him a lot. I mean, obviously, I don't speak Japanese, but I think it's just the intonations and the silliness that, like, it really just comes out.
Oh, I can't stand the Japanese voice, actually, of Teddy.
He sounds like Mr. Boo.
It is. I am such a snob when it comes to watching movies, or especially anime in Japanese. But when it came to Persona 4, I really tried at first to watch it in Japanese. And then a couple of episodes in, Teddy came along, and I was like, fuck no. And luckily, the downloads that I had were multi-language, so I hit right button, I changed it to English, and I just watched the entire anime that way.
Yeah.
I am the same way. When it comes to anime, I prefer, or Japanese games in general, if there's an option for the Japanese voice track, I always go for that. But I find lately, I prefer to have it in English because I get more, because I can't distinguish between good Japanese voice acting and bad Japanese voice acting. English voice acting, I can tell. So in Akiba Strip, which I'm playing right now, I had it in Japanese, and I couldn't stand any of the voices. And then I started to play it in English, and one of the characters is from Sweden, and she totally has a Swedish accent. I can't pick that up in Japanese, and that added like a whole other layer to her character, for me, at least.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's nice. I agree. I like Blaze Blue, Chrono Phantasma, for instance. I usually play those in Japanese, but this time I just selected English, could follow it easier. And I'm slowly getting off that JP hipster craze that I have, and just enjoy it in English. But in terms of Persona, I've played these games for 3 and 4, 80, 90 hours twice for Persona 4. I get used to these voices. So.
But I mean, also when it comes to Teddy, isn't it a lot more fun if he says very funny instead of like very funny Kuma?
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
Kuma
I,
is no.
I don't see why why even he would do that. It's annoying, and I mean, like, okay, it's his thing, but to make puns of bear is so much more fun to me.
It is.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Although, one game I will say you should never ever play in English. That is Star Ocean: The Last Hope. Just
Oh my
saying.
god, I heard so much bad
They
stuff about it.
the
It was
character
fine.
the character in question that everybody complains about,
The
the
girl,
way
right?
she yeah, the way she was, I forgot her name. The way she was localized, they did it very literally. So apparently it's an intonation in Japanese that makes perfect sense in Japanese, but in English you basically sound like Mr. Garrison. So it really just didn't make sense. In the subtitles it did with the voice, but in English it just came out as aggravating almost, like a nervous twitch almost. So it was kind of off-putting.
I see.
At least that's how I saw it. But the game itself is fantastic, and I will to this day say The Last Hope is a really good game despite popular belief.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Have not played that one for well, for more than an hour or two, but all right, all right. So let's see. What else is there to discuss about Persona Q? So I would say let's talk a little bit about some of the character interactions. And I don't know for you guys, but one of my least favorite characters in both Persona 3 and 4 is Ken. Ken Amada. I'm not a very big fan of Ken. I'm not gonna hide it.
Yep, same.
But he actually had a quite an interesting storyline, at least in the Persona 4 route, where both Kanji and Ken would get paired up. They had a couple of requests together and some story, and I thought it was handled very well. I don't know how it's done in the Persona 3 route, but I thought it was done well, where Ken inspires Kanji to pick up this teaching, and help him out to get over who he is, and then also inspire Ken on the other hand. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, we got none of that.
Yeah, I like that.
Um, we got on the P3 route, we have Junpei, who's basically just a screw up, but that's pretty much his personality. There is one quest where Mitsuru actually puts you in a sort of like a quiz show or like a Jeopardy thing between you and Junpei. Kind of like the midterms and the finals, where she does ask questions, and then the idea is that you're supposed to help Junpei study, but in reality, you're just trying to get a higher score than him.
Oh,
So
that is actually interesting because in Persona 4 route, you actually give the answers to Kanji, who is then helping out Ken to as he wants to become a teacher. Kanji at some point he's helping out Ken, and you basically feed him the good answers. And there's a couple of like normal trivia questions in there as well.
And then I'm trying to think. That's actually interesting. So maybe the quests themselves, like premise wise or objective wise, are the same. Just the premise around them is somewhat different. I mean, I think Senkai could probably speak better to that since he's done both sides.
Well, to what exactly do you mean?
On the quests, did you know on the side story quest? Did you notice how maybe like the objective was the same, but the storyline behind it was slightly different?
Since I have not finished the Persona 3 route,
Oh, I thought you finished it.
not that I haven't finished the second playthrough.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I can't compare like all the things, but I do feel they are different. They are, and also I'm not sure about all the like skits or whatever they were called. Um, but the dialogue, like for example, Yukari has more screen time in Persona 4 route. I've
Yeah, in the
noticed.
P3 route, she kind of just complains.
Yeah, but she
Yeah,
didn't say a lot actually in the P3 route. In P4, she's all she's on Yu Narakami all the time. But
yeah, Yukari, she can't stand Teddy. Like she's like so mean to him.
Yeah,
From what I remember.
But that was the same thing in Ultimax.
Yeah,
true.
true.
but yeah, there are differences, and that's good because when you're done with the grinding and you just want to play through the other route for the story, it's nice that those elements are new. Definitely.
Yeah, I can see that. That is good to hear that there's like a bunch of other things. Like some of the other notable ones was Teddy and Koromaru, like the competition they had going on. I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, that's in the P3 route. And that was really fun. One of the quests with the where they, I think it's Elizabeth hides something on one of the
Yeah.
floors. That
Was
was
awesome.
funny. That was really funny. And Koromaru, I mean, I like the character. I like
That was inside
being
the
somebody who
horror
had.
labyrinth.
Hmm?
That was inside the horror labyrinth, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with Shiba Inu's, so I'm kind of biased towards the dog itself. But I never used Koromaru, but I think I like the way that he was portrayed in this game because he was like, you know, he's in a competition with Teddy, and Teddy's kind of like a bumbling buffoon, and Koromaru is really like this secretive puppy genius that just, whoops at things.
Yeah, he's a good character actually, and he doesn't have to. He doesn't need a voice to
Yeah.
like have a good personality. They fixed it in other ways, and I think it's pretty good actually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought that was one of the better side quests. Another thing that I really enjoyed about is, they were kind of cliques forming, like you had all the guys, you Junpei, Yosuke, Kanji, and Akiko, all messing around, and then you had the girls banter around and talk stuff, and you could kind of talk to them at some points in the game, and I thought it was done really well. In the end, though, yeah, some characters are identical, like Junpei and Yosuke. They are very similar, I would say. But it's fun to see them interact together and have fun and do some events. And there was also a couple of requests, and then of course at the pinnacle of it all was the Inaba Pride exhibit, the fourth dungeon, where all the guys got very into this. We are so scared of being called or become gay with kanji and stuff. I don't know if that was in the P3 route, but the
Yeah,
looks
it
on
was.
Yosuke and Junpei was
Yeah.
just, oh boy. Oh,
But one
that's
thing I did like, and I think probably one of the best things is, it's like it's not even like obviously there's a little bit of reskinning going on between the different routes, but the interaction between the two teams I thought was really cool because it's like they're in this situation and they're talking, they're involved in the side quests, the skits, the inter-dungeon communicate, even in the cutscenes. You're not using every character, but they're all there as a team, and I thought that was really cool as opposed to just saying like pick your five and then the other ones will go hang out somewhere. Like I thought that was actually really cool as a sense of camaraderie.
It was
Yeah,
really good. It was too
that's
bad.
part.
It would have been too bad to miss out on that.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite part of the game, and that was definitely missing in Arena. I don't know if it's because of the age difference or whatever, but they definitely delivered in this one with the interactions, which I really
Yeah.
wanted in the first place.
But that's also, I think, and I know Mike knows this, the biggest weakness of Ultimax is that you go through one storyline, then you get the other perspective, and it's all spoiled.
Yeah.
Because it's just saying like, oh, it's like, Danny says hi to me, and then from my perspective, I hear Danny saying hi to me. It's kind of like, I know that already.
Yeah, no, that
Nothing
was,
new.
that was handled very poorly, and of course Ultimax is, there's not a lot of downtime, I would say, just time to just mess around and have fun. That wasn't that isn't the story that, or time or design that Ultimax and Arena can go for. So except for maybe at the beginning and the end, but here at Persona Q you had the events in between the dungeons. You would have some dead ends or some story developments that would lead to some hilarious situations, like running away from that FOE guy in the fourth dungeon, for instance, or that was all done
And
much
also,
better.
and also, I think the main theme behind the game that we haven't really touched on is all these labyrinths, despite everything is rotating around a festival. And they're
Yeah.
all exhibits within this festival. Just a little demented, just a little bit, but and a festival is about having fun and interaction. And there's even a cutscene where they're playing with the carnival games and everything, and you get to see them like they become friends at the end,
Yeah.
which I think is like great, like unification of the two different timelines, as it were, into one cohesive universe. So I don't know. I thought that was just like a really cool touch, as opposed to just like with some of these crossovers where, for example, maybe Street Fighter cross X-Men, where it's just the front page is or the splash screen Cyclops shaking Ryu's hand, and then it's just it's a crossover and they're just here together and that's it.
Yeah. They did a really good effort, tying into the teams, give everybody, I would say everybody got good screen time. Everybody had its own quests throughout the many dungeons. Everybody had something to chip in. There were definitely some social linking. Even though you didn't really do social links yourself, there were definitely some team building, etc., which in the end honestly makes the ending a little sad, because in the end they lose their memories, and we kind of got Clannad here. This is not good.
But you know what I do think is really cool too? It's like, even so with Theodore, Elizabeth, and Margaret, like Margaret and Elizabeth, obviously they're keen on the whole thing. Like, they're, as I guess you could say, supernatural beings. They know what's going to happen. So they have that privilege of remembering. I would say Theodore too, technically, even though they kind of make him somewhat bumbling. But it's like they have that privilege, and you see them in the later games, like your Persona Arena and Ultimax, which I think obviously happened after this game, and it's like they don't even say anything about it. It's like they completely play dumb to the whole thing, because once again, all they can do is influence. They can't make a decision for somebody. But you do get a little taste of that at the end of Ultimax when Elizabeth and Margaret share a conversation.
A question though, Mary, is she aware of the Persona Q happenings in Persona 4 Golden?
I'm not sure, because it's like I honestly, besides like her involvement in the Velvet Room, I mean, I didn't really try to explore her character that much. I mean, I thought the Persona 4 Golden side quest with her was well enough for me, except that last dungeon. But perhaps, I mean, she is technically a supernatural being herself.
Yeah.
But she's also the protector of Inaba, technically, so maybe not.
Interesting.
I have yet to watch the Persona 4 Golden animation. I don't know if that gives some more insight, but
yeah, they might as well call that Marie the animation. That's all it is.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty much.
How do you have a remake of a television series 2 years afterwards? To me, that's just, I don't know. I saw that.
No, it is not a remake. It is just picking the Marie arc and then just going for the Marie arc only.
Yeah, they don't show the same things that happen, so they jump around a lot. So one episode would be them skiing, or another episode be Marie's dungeon or whatever. But nothing. They're not repeating anything.
It's kind of like if you've watched Haruhi Suzumiya, it's kind of like additional episodes on top of what is already there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I couldn't get into Persona 4, the animation, personally. Yeah. And it wasn't because it was bad, just because I was like, I've played through this twice. It's like...
Yeah, I actually watched it before I played Persona 4 Golden, so it was a good recap, and I binged watched it in 3 days or something. But I have to agree, since I watched the first Persona 3 movie a couple of weeks ago, that one was done much better than the anime, which felt really rushed, especially in the battle scenes.
I think so too. I like the way they did Makoto, because he doesn't really, like, even when he does talk, it's like one word answers, and they're like reminiscent of the answers you would give in game, which I thought, and even some of the questions are directly from the game. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was really cool.
But I'm not dropping $100 on the DVD. No way, no how.
I recently acquired it. Had to pay some nice customs on it. It was quite expensive. And now the second movie is coming out in March.
With how they handle the main character in the movies, Just like the same thing in Persona Q, it feels like they always make the douche choices. Is it just me, or like the main characters you don't play as in Persona Q always says those like harsh things to everyone else, and Makoto did the same thing in the movies.
In the art book, actually, I think it's in the art book because I'm looking at it. Somewhere in here, it's actually mentioned by the artist that they wanted him to be aloof and kind of a douchebag, actually.
Yeah, I can see that.
So part of his design choice is to influence that, and even so, some of your decisions where you do get to pick, some of the answers are actually really sarcastic. And in the movie, he's very like aloof and standoffish. It's like the whole sequence with the train, like he has this revelation where he has to help, but it's kind of like, I guess so.
Yeah, it's again, I played through Persona 3 Portable in what was it, 2009, 2010. And I'm still struggling with the finer details, but when it comes to you, I always play him as like this very caring, but sometimes, just teasing character, giving like the smart
A
answers.
sister complex kingpin.
Oh boy, those extra names made no sense, but I really look forward. Of course, I will be playing as Makota. No, I can call her Makoto as well because we have Blaze Blue and Street Fighter. But I look forward to the replayment of Persona 3 Portable. I look forward to hanging out with Chidorita.
That's cool, Arrow. That you mentioned that Makoto Yuki actually works for female characters. I mean, since Persona 3 has a male and a female, they choose a name that works for both.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's maybe the kanji wise it won't match, but just looking at the name, it's both male and female, so should work.
I never thought of that. These bastards at the P5 studio.
But it's such a tough decision. Do I play Devil Survivor Overclocked or do I play Persona 3 Portable?
Overclocked. Overclocked.
Yeah, I finished both already, but they're on my list to be played. But I gotta beat Hearts R first. But yeah, I really want to get into more. Basically, I should play a Atlas or Shin Megami Tensei game at all times. Like never stop playing one.
That's cool.
I don't think I could do that. I mean, personally, I do appreciate dark storylines, but at certain points, I do need that whimsy, as I like to call it.
Yeah, so Persona and Devil Survivor are a bit like that.
Devil Survivor, the decisions in there towards the end, I thought they went places that even some Western RPGs can't do. But that's SMT in general with the law, neutral, and chaotic. Like some of the decisions, I'm just like, and even so, some of them tie directly into real world religions. I'm like, yo.
Yeah, no, that is true. But I would say, you have the main SMT stuff that is very dark, and then you have Devil Survivor in the middle, and then you have Persona, it's the more cutesy one, and then all the way at the cutesy spectral, you will have Persona 4 Dancing All Night, and it's just... Even Adachi will be a playable character in that, and he will be having fun dancing all night.
Adachi. I really liked Adachi, and I really liked Adachi as a villain, actually.
You tried a social link in Golden? I thought it was really great.
I did, yeah. I actually I made a save backup to actually get the Adachi ending.
Yeah.
Fucker. I called it, by the way, when I was playing Persona 4 the first time. This guy was around way too often, and I had the balls to type in Adachi on Google. I spoiled myself when I was playing, maybe in like June or something. And then the entire game, I didn't feel bad about it because I called it. And, I was like, okay, I know about you, dude. We'll see. I'm going to keep my eye on you.
That was like when I was playing Ultimax. And I was explaining some of the characters to my girlfriend. I was like, and this is the big bad guy. And she's like, him? Really? I'm like, yeah, the most unlikely person.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just, it was a little bit too obvious. He was so around so much in Persona 4, and
Scooby Doo.
yeah, I don't know the exact moment where I was like, I gotta look it up, but I called it pretty early on, like somewhere in June or July, even before the whole Mitsuo Kubo stuff. That took me a little bit out of the game at first. Like, shit, I spoiled it. I don't want to continue on. I put it down for a couple of weeks, and then I picked it back up again. And
Did you figure out Persona 3's twist or no?
And to be honest, right now I forgot about the Persona 3 twist. I just played that game in a haze in like 2 weeks' time, and I really lost the finer details. And I would say no, I didn't call the twist. And even right now, I still can't really remember what happened with Ikutsuki and with Pharaohs and stuff.
One of the greatest things in 3 is that it has multiple twists, just like say Final Fantasy 6, which is
I'm
good.
referring to the boy. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I can't even remember what was going on with that. There's like bits and pieces in my head, but this is one of the reasons why I got to replay it.
Yeah, replay it. You're gonna have so much fun.
Yeah, for me personally, that was pants shitting. I totally didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah, because I'm gonna replay it, I don't want to look it up right now. Just keep
don't. That's why I haven't outright said what it is yet.
There's just some bits and pieces, but it happens sometimes. You're just really into a game, and then you beat it, and then the story just goes away. And then.
Well, you have to finish Lightning Returns first. I mean, that's mandatory.
Yes, I'm going to continue watching the Let's Play. I'm 3 hours in of the 9-hour video that's online. I will talk about Lightning Returns later on, guys, but for those still listening, no.
It's too bad, man. I mean, you should definitely give it a fair chance, because what you're doing right now, it's like a rant playthrough.
I beat it. I got an ending.
Come on.
He went to the inn and he slept for 2 weeks. That's what he did.
Oh my god.
I can't stand the gameplay. I can't stand the time limit. I
Give
get
it
really
some
frustrated.
time, dude. It's getting better.
Yeah, the Let's
Trust
Play is
me.
getting better.
Oh god.
Listen, I couldn't stand Tales of Legendia the second I heard that guy with the southern accent talk, and I still finished it.
Yeah, I know.
And I went through the final, and I destroyed the final boss. Completely destroyed. Just juggled him constantly. And after that, the credits started to play, and I just turned off the system. I have no idea if there was anything after the credits. I don't care. It's finished. It's my least favorite Tales game.
I've not played that one, but you know what? I'm gonna finish the Let's Play. I hardly ever watch Let's Plays of games. I don't like to do that, but I've done it before. No, I'm serious. I have this video up on YouTube. It's just all the cutscenes of the game. I'm gonna watch it.
God, you're missing out on something.
I suppose you watched Shenmue the movie too.
No, I've actually never watched that before. I used to own it, but
Okay, Mike. Fuck Lightning Returns, but make sure that you play Shenmue, okay? Do not watch Shenmue, please.
No, I was not. I don't like to watch Let's Plays. I've maybe done it. I can't remember which games. There was a couple of games where there was some stuff with my save file being gone. Which JRPG
Yeah,
was
of
it?
course. But I mean, you're 3 hours into Lightning
Or
Returns.
I watched like alternate endings on the internet. But for Lightning Returns, I'm really fucking angry right now. So I just want to watch it through, let it settle, and then maybe in a couple of months or so, I'm like, let's give it another try. I know what happens. I'm not obsessed with getting the best ending. Let's just play through it and see what happens.
Okay,
But for right now,
getting a review on the game afterwards.
But for right now, I'm going
I
to
already know what the review
fuck
is.
that game. I'm going to watch a Let's Play, get the story done, and say, Lightning, be gone.
Yeah, that's. I guess the game is going to be getting a J- from Mike.
No, it gets 2 stars. 1 for effort, 1 for being Lightning. That's it.
1 for effort and 1 for writing your name correctly on the title of the test page.
No, right now it's just not the right game for me. I like I mentioned, I started today. I played for maybe 2-3 hours. I can't stand it, and it symbolizes and personifies everything that I feel is going wrong with Square Enix and Final Fantasy, and I need to let that anger subside. So just
But let's all right.
That's
So that
interesting,
being
though.
said, let's tie this back into Persona Q somewhat because this is going way off tangent.
yeah, I know, I know.
This is beyond the star player the Zeneca Daves. But when it came to first person dungeon crawlers or just first person RPGs in general, did you initially say there is no way in hell I will find any enjoyment in this? Because that was my initial reaction all those years ago. I thought I didn't feel absorbed. If anything, I thought it was a clunky, disgusting mess. And now playing Persona Q. Now, given I haven't really delved into the Ichiro and Odyssey games as much as I would like to, only I'd say maybe 10 hours between the two I have. Um, I think that it's come leaps and bounds, and I've like acquired that taste, and I've not learned to like it, but I definitely see what the appeal is now. Do you think that that may be something that could occur with action RPGs in you?
Yeah, yeah, I always go into games and certain genres that are not for me. Um, and in general, yeah, they're action RPGs. They're fine. I like Ys, I like Kingdom Hearts and Tales.
But I mean more so like this Lightning Returns style.
Yeah, so with Lightning Returns, it is just it's just the wrong moment at the right time. I'm already not really into the whole Square Final Fantasy situation,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had these things before where I just don't feel up for a certain game or something, and then I just got to give it time and then come back to it, and then replay it again, and then I'll probably like it. There's not a lot of, like, I would say I tend to repress all this negative stuff. I just focus on the positive stuff. So when it's gone, it's gone. Like a couple of months from now, I won't even remember this shitty Lightning Returns.
I will
But
say though, like playing through the game and finishing it, there were like a lot of times I was incredibly aggravated with it. But then there were other times, like I mentioned earlier, it's such a beautiful game. Like there are so many, the world itself, all the worlds, the timelines, whatever the hell you want to call it, look fantastic, and there's so much to explore. But then there's this fucking time limit that if you play in this very specific way, you can experience as much of it as you can, but then you have to replay it again, which depending on how you play games, I mean, for me to play a game back to back is a very rare occurrence, which is why X Blaze was my game of the year because I never do that. And it's like it's a fucking book. But
yeah,
Persona Q, like I played through it and I enjoyed my time with it. But what's holding me back from wanting to replay it immediately after and get the other side story is the dungeon design for the last dungeon. I just don't want to do it again.
yeah. No, in general, I unless it's like a shmup or something or like a fighting game, I seldomly replay games like within at least 2 years of each other. So, or maybe some Western games like Last of Us. I just, I want a platinum trophy, then you play it 3 times. But I rarely do that anyway. So, um, but yeah, it happens sometimes where some games just come to me at the wrong time. And what I've noticed from myself as a gamer is I tend to really be good at predicting how much I'm going to enjoy it. And there is a reason why I have not played Lightning Returns for more close than a year since I have it, because I have this feeling that I was not gonna like it, and it is the main thing that is wrong for me with Lightning Returns is the gameplay system is a sort of hack and slash action RPG, but not a fully action RPG like say Kingdom Hearts. So either go full on, either go full retard or don't go full retard, or just keep it turn based. But the thing that breaks the game is the time limit system. I actually had Majora's Mask on the radar to pick it up and maybe finally give it a try. I'm not even going to bother because I will know for a fact 100% I'm going to get frustrated because I'm a pretty slow gamer. I like to explore every nook and cranny. I like to do all the side quests before I move on to the main storyline. I tend to always do that. And here comes this game, and I take 2 steps in Lightning Returns, and there's just like hours ticking by.
But you
And
can stop time, you know?
yeah, I know. I unlocked the what is it, the Christostasis ability.
The Crystallarium Sphere Grid Stasis
Yeah, no,
Locks Vibe.
I can indeed stop time, and I had like 5 EP points. I used them all up, and then, the time just continues on. And I was using this guide on the side that said, if you want to get to the good ending, follow this guide and you will get there. And I wasn't even able to get these timestamps in, and I was just like, I don't like the gameplay battle system because I was just, I didn't really like it. It's just, in my opinion, poorly executed from the 3 hours I played, I know. And then I didn't like the time mechanics in it. And then the worst offender of all, the time limit makes it unplayable, but then the storyline is so far. Like I said, I'm 3 hours into 9 hours let's play video. It's just the cutscenes, and with like maybe 10 seconds of bosses. Somebody took a really good time to effort to make this like a sort of movie, to be honest. But the story is garbage so far, like really bad. Like there's like the main drive factor for Lightning, and that it's not there. I know 100% that she's being, like, this is probably not even being a fucking spoiler. Like, I know she's being, she's set on this quest by this god, and it's gonna betray her or some shit like that, and they gotta fight it off. I'm not seeing a lot of characters so far. Other characters, I don't know. It's just a game. It's not for me right now, and it personifies everything that is going wrong with Square Enix. It's going wrong with Final Fantasy. I have my concerns. We talked about this in the chat. I have my concerns for Type 0 HD. I have my concerns for Final Fantasy 15. And here I am. I like playing games. I want to have fun playing games. And JRPGs are pretty lengthy games, and they take up a lot of time. And all the time when I'm playing Lightning Returns, I'm thinking, I could be playing Devil Survivor Overclocked or Persona 3 Portable instead and have a lot more fun. So why shouldn't I do that instead?
But those games are also on time limits if you think about it. But I think they allow you a lot more time to explore, personally. I mean, in the case of the Persona games, they take place over a year.
Yeah.
And in the case of Devil Survivor, it's 7 days or 8 days, depending on
yeah,
how you
it's
look
it's
at it.
in that case that's true, but it's not like a counter ticking down. It's not like when I take
Yeah, exactly.
one step in, like, or just explore the alley of the street, I lose the ability to finish off a side quest. It's just picking the correct order in terms of social links or side.
Yeah, and that's why I mean, typically with me, time limits, they don't bother me because I'm fairly efficient. But when I have such a strict Lightning Returns, again, I finished it with 3 days to go, and I felt like I did everything I wanted to do. It was exhausting.
But did you do multiple playthroughs, or?
I only did the one.
Yeah, same here.
I personally, like, the final boss. Despite being grossly over leveled, but I do not want to have to do that again. It was not fun.
But did you reload your save quite often to replay a section just to save time?
No way.
No.
I didn't, at least.
I didn't. I think one instance, I think I messed up a quest, or I forgot to do it, so I went back to a loads because I left that timeline, so I was like, oh shit, so I reloaded it just so I could cash that in and then leave. But I think I don't know. It's very strange. Like, I was satisfied with myself that I managed to get everything I wanted with still days to go, but I was just like, I didn't get to, I guess, involve myself as much because I was like, okay, like, at work I multitask all the time. So with Lightning Returns, I was multitasking. I was like, okay, I go here, 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 and then I'll go after this, and I'll do that, then I'll go over here and see this cutscene, then I'll run over here. You know, there was urgency, but I was like, I was having a good time, but I wasn't like involved in the cutscenes or any of the storylines. Like, okay, this guy sucks. This one's dog died. All right, who the fuck cares? On to the next. Like, it just there was no time, quote unquote, for that.
Oh yeah,
But
that's
that's
what.
the thing with the game as well. It's structured very well because some quests you can only do at a certain time. So like it's 10 o'clock, so you go and do your quest, and then the next quest you want to do you cannot do until say 4 o'clock. So you go and grind a bit or do some side quests, and the game makes up a structure for you, and that's actually really nice because instead of like, should I grind now or maybe it's time to do some side quests, it all comes very naturally, and I
Yeah,
know
there is.
it takes like 3 or 4 days of game time to really get the flow. But when that's also the thing, like uh, I wasted 3 days or something. I had no progression at all. But then I actually learned the game, and at the end, just like Alex said, we had 3 days left because we got so good at the game by just exploring, taking your time. You can waste a few days at first because that's fine. Just get to learn the game, and then it's a breeze.
But by that same token, though, it's like, I mean, as I said, I had a guidebook with it because I didn't want to get the stupid collector's edition. Instead, I got the PS3 controller and the limited edition guide, and I made my own little collector's edition. But even so, looking at the guide, I'm like, okay, I finished the game, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at the side quests. I was like, holy shit, did I miss a lot? And it wasn't because I didn't miss it. I just didn't, I missed the time frames. Or it took several days that I didn't have as a luxury. So, and they even said, like, we encourage you to make multiple playthroughs, but when it comes to me and multiple playthroughs, as I said, for me, it has to speak to me in such a way where I'm just like, my God, this was such a good time. And when I finished it, I was just exhausted. I was like, oh man, like I wanted to go on vacation. And it wasn't because it was bad. It was just exhausting, you know, like just keeping track of yourself and saying, okay, at 4 o'clock, I think I said, I go over here to pick up this quest, and then I'll run up the street and turn in this one because that NPC activates at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I still say the game itself is beautiful, but to fully experience it, I'd say you have to play through it 3 times. And I personally do not have the patience to do that.
But what would you get from the other, like more than side quests? But the side quests were pretty meh in a way.
Yeah, some of them story wise were really good, but it's text. So, I mean, the critical ones with some of the supporting characters I thought were great. There's one towards the end that I thought was very hard touching, but I guess more power, more items, maybe a few other get-ups. I guess costumes. I have no idea. Was not dress sphere. What is it called again?
Garbs.
Garbs. Yeah, a few
right.
more garbs. I mean, once I got the dragoon garb, I was thrilled. That's the one.
So
that's
cool.
the one I really wanted. Gotta represent the dragoon.
Oh well, it all sounds.
Yeah, it gets better, trust me. But I know the feeling. I felt the same. I like every time it passed a day, the story went on with hope and everything, but you felt like, fuck, I didn't made any progression at all. But that's fine. That's fine.
But even so, it's like, once again to tie it back to Persona Q, it's like the story is there. It's like this huge overarching story, but they only give you snippets of it. I mean, the heart lies in the gameplay of the dungeon crawling, which you have as much time as you want to do, with the exception of some of the requests, which are on time limits. But they're basically there until you finish that dungeon. So, I mean, at least that's
the thing. You know, like the way I play it, I always go to Elizabeth. I check if there's new requests, and if there's a new request, I drop everything else and do that request. You know, this is I know where I'll continue to get frustrated by Lightning Returns by is there's probably like 10 or so side quests, and it's like pick your own adventure, and I will get frustrated for the fact that I cannot do all 10 at the same time. I gotta even, you know, skip a few, and that is something that, you know, that's not my play style, and the game doesn't cater for me to do that, and it's like, it's very unnatural to me not to be able to do side quests when they are there, and, you know, this whole time management thing, and you can't win them all, and it's sad because it's a main numbered Final Fantasy game. But in terms of that's Persona Q, they handled it very very well. They give you never struggled with the time thing because when I picked them up, I did them right away. So.
And even so with like Persona 4, I'll use as an example. My first playthrough on the PS2 was 80 hours. And then when I played the Golden, it was 60 and change. And I did completely different social links that I didn't capitalize on in the first, except the Fox. The Fox I always do.
Yeah.
But
Of course.
But it was just like when I finished, I was like, oh man, this was like this second playthrough, this new version was great. Wow, only 20 hours better, and I wasn't rushing. It just came naturally, which is something I think is a great testament to the series. There is a time limit, but you can still go through it and not feel like you're rushing, unless it's like end of the month and you're like, holy shit, I have not gotten to XYZ floor yet.
Yeah, but that's the thing with me and Persona 3 and 4 is I tend to go into a dungeon for one day and I stay in that dungeon until I beat it. So I have more time to spend on my social links. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I give myself a maximum allotment of 2 days. Like if I get to the final floor and I'm beaten up, then I'll leave and come back the next day.
Yeah, so that is again that in that types of games, the time system doesn't really bother me because I can have multiple saves. I can plan ahead. But in this one, I just it was just, in Lightning Returns. It's just there. It's staring at me like, and even if I just do nothing, I just stand there. The clock is counting down, and I'm like, no. But nothing lost, nothing gained. Like I said, can't win them all, and maybe I just gotta let it all sink in, and maybe in a couple of months I'll go back to it and I just play through it and.
It's actually funny, like all this talk about Lightning Returns being as off topic as it is, time is a critical theme in Persona Q as well, actually. Considering the last dungeon is the clock tower and the final boss is heavily involved in time, which I think is kind of funny.
Actually.
I was just thinking about it, I was like, wow, we really got off top. Not really.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, it's just a game that I'm playing right now, and that and Hearts are. And it also has to do with the fact that I'm going through this obsession with beating games, especially this month. So
I'm personally doing pretty good this month, but you should really try Akiba Strip. I mean, don't take it seriously, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, it's on my list to check out. I'm hoping for like a sale or something, and I think it will be a fun game. I'm not thinking much of the gameplay, but I played through Senran Kagura Shinobi first as well, so.
Think Yakuza extremely stripped down.
Yeah, I want to scare you guys away. Let's not bring Yakuza in the mix.
Well, what?
No, let's not.
No,
we'll talk about this later on.
we need another episode.
Because,
I need another episode. No, I won't.
There's actually 2 games that I've given up on this month, and the other one is Yakuza 4.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. I played through the first chapter at Akiyama. I enjoyed it.
Akiyama's the best.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got to the Taiga part, and then I was into the fighting system. I didn't like it, and then the chase events, and I'm just like, this gameplay hasn't evolved for years, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna stop playing Yakuza.
Neither is Dragon Quest, and nobody's complaining about that. Oh wait, never mind. People do complain about that.
No, but see, that's the thing. There's some certain games out there that just have gameplay in it that I just don't enjoy, and I just
think Greg is probably stabbing himself in the chest right now too. Come to think of it.
I'm sorry, Greg. I know you will probably were cheering on like, oh yes, he didn't play more Final Fantasy 13 shit. But here, this Yakuza 4. I played it for 8 hours. I got to the prison part, and it's just
listen. You just got to get through Taiga. Although Taiga's revelations were hysterical, but you just got to get through that part. Actually, I really like that story part. But Akiyama's my favorite. He makes the entire game, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm a Kiryu fan.
Yeah, I played through Yakuza 1 and 2, but I'm like, yeah, the story is fun and all, and then I get to the gameplay sections, and let's be honest here, Yakuza, the game design and the menu and user interface is total fucking garbage.
That's, but you know what it is with that though? I'll be honest. System wise, depth wise, all this other stuff, it's not the deepest, it's not the most complex, but it's like it is so tongue in cheek. I think that like they're purposely saying like, okay, we've been using the same menu design since 1994. I think we should leave it in. They won't know the difference. Yeah, you're right.
It's so bad that it's. And when I get into this fuck this game mood, then I start noticing everything. I even started ranting about the fact that Lightning's hair has like dual layers and it looks like shitty hair. And the same goes for Yakuza 4. I just got into this mood where I'm like, the gameplay sucks, the fighting sucks, the combo mechanics are very similar. It is difficult because I keep dying, and it's just the main offender here for Yakuza or Yakuza, the lock-on button. Why is there no lock-on button to actually lock on to one particular enemy and then just beat the shit out of him and then move on to the next one? It is just, I keep whiffing and missing my attacks, and then, some strange fucker runs in with like a weapon, and then, he puts me on the ground, and then I'm lying on the ground there, and I want to get up, and I can't get up, and then, it's like, I really enjoyed Akiyama's story. It was fun. The characters and the cutscenes are nice, and I would definitely play Yakuza the visual novel. It's just the entire game cutscenes, like a book or movie. I would do it, but gameplay wise, no.
Go finish your Let's Play of Yakuza 4, okay?
No, I'm not actually good. No. In terms of Lightning Returns, because I'm such a Final Fantasy fan, I actually want to watch like the cutscenes and everything. But for Yakuza 4, I'm not gonna bother with watching the story. It's, yeah.
I was gonna say, if you buy Yakuza 5, it comes with a Let's Play of Yakuza 1, 2, 3, and 4.
See, that is the thing. I know, Lightning Returns. It's just we know it's there. It's the one of the worst reviewed games. But I know how many people in the community, like you guys included, love Yakuza, and I feel bad, but I'm not enjoying my time with it as much as I kind of like the story and just walking around the world, the combat mechanics, and just the design of the game, and it feels way too archaic and. I'm not having fun with those parts. And again, all the time I was thinking I can play games that I do enjoy. So, like I mentioned,
That's probably a better idea, to be honest.
I'm pretty picky with games, and I've
Just
already
at least buy Yakuza 5 so that Sega realizes that they should maybe bring over the rest of them. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I know. But seriously, have you played Yakuza 5? Is the gameplay like improved? I heard things like a new engine and stuff.
The engine is a little bit better, yeah. I do have a physical copy of the Japanese game, and I did start to play it with a translation guide, and
Don't need to.
I stopped only because it's mentally exhausting
Yeah.
just to, look back and forth and then try to look at the characters, try to memorize where stuff is, and then you get to a cutscene, and then, I watch the cutscene, then I have to pause it, then I go to YouTube because somebody took the time to subtitle it in English, and then I'm like, I may as well pause the cutscene, watch the. It's exhausting. And I was like, I have to wait till the summer when it's slower for me at work, and then I can probably invest a little bit more time. And then they said, "Oh no, it's coming over to the States." I was like, "Well, don't need to do this anymore," and I just deleted the save file.
Yeah, no, it's. Yeah, if you ask me right now, I'm not even going to pick up Yakuza 5. But if the gameplay is really better and I don't have those frustrations that I'm having with 4, and like that's the reason why I gave up on 3, and why I at that time when I had more time on my hands and no job, I would just power through 1 and 2. They were not very lengthy anyway. If you just focus on the story.
There is bear wrestling.
Yeah,
And there's Taikyo Drum Master.
Yeah.
And there's EDR.
Yeah, I know. There's this. But I was playing Yakuza 4 and then Akiyama's story, you had to do this hostess.
Oh, I love that. That's my
Dress up.
favorite part, actually.
Yeah, no, it's just, it made no sense from a design perspective. You had to dress the girl up according to how the guys wanted it. And then, there was just, it didn't match. You had to dress her up according to what they wanted. And then the game didn't tell you what your stats were improving, etc. But, oh well. I guess I made a lot of enemies today. Lightning Returns. Lightning Returns, it's not for me. Yakuza 4, it's not for me. There's 2 games I've given up on this month. And I'm not gonna go back. I'm just gonna continue on Tales of Hearts R, which I'm about halfway through and I'm enjoying that shit.
Well, I should be happy then.
Alright, so let's go for a catch-all, because we've clearly gone way off topic.
Hey, it's RPGibberish in the end, so we're rambling on about RPGs, so it's all good for me.
Well, already Greg is probably trying to attempt to hang himself after that and just go off the podcast. I'm not really sure yet. But,
please don't do so, Greg.
But I think at this point, I think we should maybe what our final assessment of Persona Q is. I already know it's your game of the year, so but I don't know about you guys, like your overall assessment of the game.
Yeah, I got about 10 minutes. I gotta leave, but I'll put in my final thoughts. Favorite moments. You guys want to go through each one, like maybe cutscenes or things that happen, and maybe wrap up our full thoughts.
Yeah, no, you can go ahead.
In the third dungeon, the horror house, when Yosuke had to pee,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
probably my favorite moment in the game. Just because going back to Persona 4 and having a shy bladder, and and then the old doll shows up and everyone's freaked out and they gotta find a place to hide, so they go in the bathroom and I don't know, that whole interaction was just fucking hilarious. I love every minute of it.
Yeah, so. that was a great one. I would say my favorite part is just when the cast meets up between the first and second dungeon. Then that first interaction and the cutscenes and the stories that you have there. That one really was really where I got like, yes, this is a great game and this is what I was hoping for, and that's where it started to deliver for me. Sankai?
Well, I gotta say my absolute favorite moment in the game. I mean, I love the third dungeon, but the boss fight and all the story that was before the boss fight and after the boss fight in the fourth dungeon was definitely my favorite part of the game. I mean, right when you got to the boss, so much shit happened, and after the boss fight there was like twice as much story, so that was really interesting. Very cool, because the game doesn't have a lot of cutscenes, but yeah, that was great.
Alex, favorite moments?
I think my favorite moment is when you got to see everybody enjoying the fair or the festival. I thought that was really good in terms of like establishing a sort of connection between the two teams. And as cliche as the ending was, I kind of liked the exchange between you and Makoto at the end too.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought it was just like total acknowledgement of each other. Because, I mean, ultimately, as the player, you get to decide who you're going to play, but they're both acknowledging that they're both powerful in each of their respective worlds, I guess. Because I was kind of hoping they would have somewhat of a rivalry between the two, but they didn't. And it was, at least for my playthrough, Yu is very supportive of you. Like, it's just like, well, if the leader says so, I stand by, and basically telling his guys, Chie and everybody else, listen to him. He knows what he's doing.
Indeed.
He has my vote.
Yeah. No, that was a very cool moment as well. No, that was nice. So, in terms of sequel, if it happens, would you guys be interested to play a Persona Q2?
Definitely.
Without question. Take my money now.
I definitely would, but I don't know how it could equate out to this unless, they don't remember anything. But, as a player, it's going to me, I would see it as like, I don't want to say it's kind of a cash grab, but kind of a cash grab.
Yeah, I can see that on the one hand. Yeah. Yeah, I can
I'll
see.
settle for some DLC dungeons. I'll take that if that's all they
Oh,
give us.
yeah, that I would go for.
Yeah, that would have probably been the best. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, let's see what's coming out. We'll get a lot of Persona news pretty soon. So yeah, in terms of recapping it in one sentence, for me, Persona Q was my game of the year of 2014. It was the just etching out the Danganronpa games. I had the most enjoyment and fun out of Persona Q. So yeah, Danny, what are your final thoughts on it?
Yeah, so to me, it's a pleasant surprise. Going into I wasn't expecting much actually. Same with the arena games. I thought it's gonna be it's gonna be a competent, a good dungeon crawler RPG. But I probably say it probably stands up as one of the better SMC and Persona games. Even though I haven't played all of them. Would you agree, Mike? Didn't you place it high up on your top 100 JRPGs?
Yeah, in the end,
Update.
Persona Q is now on the number 15 spot, just under Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I can't see anyone enjoying this game as much as, if you haven't played Persona 3 and 4. I know you can probably play without, playing those games, but you'd be doing yourself a disservice. So, fan service in all the right ways. Excellent, excellent. Very good game.
I agree. I agree. You really have to play 3 and 4 before you even attempt these. You could get through it and still enjoy yourself, but I feel like some of the nuances are totally lost. And even if you're listening to this episode now, and you decide to sit through the spoiler section for whatever reason,
and the lightning returns,
and the lightning returns rant, you'll be wondering like, why are they making fun of Ken so much, or what's the joke with Kanji? The inside joke part of it won't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Danny mentioned, it's perfect fan service and a great game on its own. Senkai, any final thoughts on the game?
Yes, but first I would like to say that those who still listened, like you said, level up both main characters to level 55 before we finish the game. That's one thing. But yeah, okay. My impressions. I think the game is fantastic. It mixes story and gameplay very well. I usually don't play games this amount of hours if they're not multiplayer games. This is solely a single player game, and I played it for more than 100 hours. So I mean, it's really really good. I love it. I would not say as good as the games you mentioned, Arrow, but yeah, very very good game. I highly recommend it. But you need to finish Persona 3 and 4, like Alex said, which is a pretty big minus. It could be a plus as well. It is for me, but I mean for a lot of people, I cannot recommend this game. So yeah, that's it.
I would say if you do want to play Persona 3, definitely take the portable route. Persona 4, definitely take the golden route. Yeah. But if you can deal with the fact that your party is not controlled by you, play through the PS2 version of Persona 3, at least for the FES storyline, because I personally really enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, I had to go back and learn the old school style to just play the answer in FES, but
yeah, people gotta understand that, like, yeah, golden and portable is better, but I mean, man, the originals are fine. If you only have a PS2, play Persona 4. It's still fucking amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely. That is true. You should play whatever version is there. They're all really good. They're all playable. They're all fun. It's just that the updates, they tweak some stuff and they streamline it. But if you have whatever system available, this is Persona Q. We talk about Persona Q, but Persona 3 and Persona 4, in my opinion, some of the best Japanese RPGs that came out in the last couple of years. Well, it's close to 10 years already, but still, these games deserve your time. They might be a little bit tough to get into at first with all systems and the social linking. They really pay off in terms of story and characters. And it's not only me. There's many people, especially in the community, that love these games. And I'm sure that here on RPGibberish we'll do a full Persona episode at some point. Just talking about everything, every game, every version. But yeah, just play Persona. Please do. You should not be disappointed by it.
Right.
All right, so I think that also brings us to the conclusion of this RPGibberish. I want to thank you guys a lot for being on and rambling on about some other games as well. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you too. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun until you went on your tangent about
Yeah, it happens. It's you get a bonus. You get a bonus. So hopefully we can have you guys on for some other episodes. Greg and I will be asking you guys if you want to join for some specific series or some rambling. And of course, to wrap it up, Persona 5 hype, February 4th, February 5th. There's a lot of news dropping. We're planning some RPGibberish as well to talk about that. So stay tuned. I want to thank you guys for watching, and be sure, of course, to check out Devil May Pie, Return to Mother Base, and Excellent Gamers on YouTube. And I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
Woo!
All right.
That was what, a good 5 hours?
Welcome back, everybody, back again to a new episode of RPGibberish, the third in our Revived series. And it's going to be a great episode. I really look forward to it. But before we get started, there's two quick announcements that I wanted to give before we get started to the actual episode that we recorded yesterday. And first of all, as you can see, if you are watching this on YouTube, you can see that our designs and our logos have been completely overhauled. And both Greg and I are extremely happy with the results. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And I gotta give a major shout out here to Outdated Gamer, to Bernie, who is a great great friend here on YouTube and Facebook, and he offered to help us out, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So Bernie, thanks a lot for doing this, and thanks for making the show look extra awesome. And secondly, is you will see in this episode that we are going to be talking about one game in particular. However, with three other fellow-minded Japanese RPG fans, at the later parts in the episode, we deviate a lot from Persona Q, which is the game that we're going to be talking about. You can already see in the title. We deviate at some point. I would say venture a guess like 2 hours in, 2.5 hours in, we go off a different tangent and talk about some other games. So keep that in mind. It's still a great talk, and it is definitely something that I will have to elaborate on in the future. But with that being said, I hope you guys will enjoy the episode, and definitely check back soon. We are planning quite some few episodes as well, a few shorter ones here and there, so I hope you guys are excited for it. Of course, as usual, it is pretty tough to align a lot of people to, especially from all around the world, to meet time zones, etc., especially when everybody is really busy. So keep that in mind. But in any case, I hope you guys will enjoy these upcoming 3 hours of RPGibberish Revived, where we are going to be talking about Persona Q. So with that being said, let's take it away and start the episode.
So guys, welcome back to RPGibberish, a new episode. This is actually the third episode of the RPGibberish Revived. And sadly, we do not have Greg in attendance today because we are going to be talking about a game in particular, which is Persona Q. And luckily, I'm not going to be doing this episode all by myself. We have not one, not two, but 3 awesome guests. And I'll give some time to introduce themselves. So let's get started with Senkai from Excellent Gamers.
Hello.
And we also have here Danny, Devil May Pie.
What's up, guys?
And finally, we have Alex, Return to Mother Base.
All right, seriously, why does everybody always put Return to Mother Base after my name? It's like that's not my last name. Hi.
It isn't?
Yes, it is.
It is now. All right, so welcome, guys. So for those who are unaware, these three guys all run some very awesome channels on YouTube. Definitely check them out. They usually talk about Japanese RPGs as well and some other great games. So all of us, we have been playing Persona Q, well, I would say pretty religiously over the last 2 months.
Have.
I don't know about you guys, but I clocked in around 70 hours.
109 here.
Holy
Oof.
I
Yeah.
came in at 82.
Damn.
Damn, that
Am I
is.
the only one that played on normal? Maybe that's why my hours were so low.
Nah, I was playing on hard.
I just overgrind. That's my thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not killing the boss in 3 hits. I'm clearly under level.
Senka, you actually went the crazy OCD route, right? The last couple of days.
Yep, I did 100%. So the thing is, I started New Game Plus and played for maybe 15 hours, and then I felt like I should. It felt wrong going through the game with like the second best weapons and stuff. So I went back to my first save and did 100%, and then did a New Game Plus. So
Okay.
New Game Plus.
yeah.
And you used a different. Did you use a different party setup this time too?
Well, every single character is 99, so and have the ultimate weapon and ultimate armor, so I can use anybody I want.
No. Well, I mean more so like, did you make it a point to use different characters, or did you stick with your favorites?
No, I mix it up since I can. Like, there's no loss really, but I try them out to hear all these sound clips and stuff.
Oh man, give me that save file. Oh,
Seriously.
so all right.
You keep it.
We'll get talking a little bit more about the gameplay, but in any case, to get back, so Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth. For those who are unaware about the game, it is of course a spin-off. It's combining the cast of Persona 3 and Persona 4's characters into a Etrian Odyssey styled, which is a first-person dungeon crawler game. It's done by the Etrian Odyssey team. They made Persona Q as the spin-off title, and it is a very good game, right?
Indeed.
You mean
Yeah.
a very good game?
It's a very, very good game.
You know, I bit my tongue. I was actually thinking about saying that. It was okay. It was good.
There will be puns in this episode. There will be puns. So, this episode we're going to be talking about Persona Q for the most part. We assume that most of the listeners have played through Persona 3 and 4. If you haven't and still want to stick around, we are going to be keeping spoilers to a minimum for all 3 games. We do have a spoiler section towards the end, and we'll of course mention that. So if you don't want to get spoiled, then you can go away and then maybe come back once you actually picked up the game and beat it yourself. So keep that in mind. For now, we are just going to be running through the game, what it is, how it's set up, and first of all, you know, as this is a game is very based on Etrian Odyssey, so I played through all of the Etrian Odyssey games except for Etrian Odyssey Untold. I'm pretty familiar with this, and I knew what to expect. How about you guys? Danny, for instance?
Yeah, that's easy. 0. I've played none of them. I have Millennium Girl. Been wanting to try that, but just kept putting it off. But yeah, I guess Persona Q is my start in the Etrian Odyssey style game, and yeah, I really love it. So look forward to playing the rest of the games. But yeah, this is my first experience with this kind of style game.
Awesome. Alex?
In terms of Etrian Odyssey or Etrian Odyssey, I've played a little bit of the 4th. I've played a little bit of the 3rd. I haven't finished either of them, but to me, it kind of cheapened it. I was like, I feel bad using it.
Yeah.
And I was like, who could take his place? I'm like, Frederick will take his place. And Frederick literally carried me through the entire game because I was
until the
like,
last boss.
no.
Just towards the end.
Yeah, because he kind of caps out or plateaus rather. But you know, it's like mechanics like that. That's what stop me from getting the paid Persona DLC. Just because I was like, what if it? I mean, already with the Lunar Blessing, I'm like, this game is already partially broken, and it's out of my own damn conscience that I want to turn it off.
Yeah.
So I
I
figured
just looked it up. The paid DLC is actually Thanatos. He's level 70, and Magatsu Izanagi is level 92.
Oh my god, really?
And I don't even want to know what type of skills they have. So if you can summon these
How
when
much
you're a
are they?
lower level, like Kaguya and Orpheus Tellus, then that will break the game for sure.
I mean, I guess I would think, but yeah, if you guys do replay through Awakening at all, do not use the gold farming XP. Use the gold farming one. Don't use the experience one because you'll be totally over level and it completely eliminates the purpose of grinding.
I never had a problem with gold in Fire Emblem games though.
No, me neither.
Yep.
No, definitely not.
If you need it, I mean, personally, I overgrind everything. Like if there's an FAQ in the case of like we'll say Persona Q for instance, it's like, oh, you should really be 35 for this boss. I'm like, okay, level 50 it is. All right. Let's do this.
I think Joe has a tendency, X Corm of an X, to do that as well.
It's like I'm not joking when I say if I can't beat him in 3 turns, I'm not doing good enough. That's the rule.
Personally, I tend to do the opposite. So if the guy
Yeah.
says 35, I always go for like 32, and feels like I want this challenge, because if like anybody could beat it at level 35, I wanna make it like a little bit tougher. So
You know what
Yeah.
I do find in older games though, where they have those suggestions, where it's like I think in Final Fantasy IV, they're like, oh, for the 4 fiends, I can't remember the level off the top of my head, but it's like you should really be 45. I'm like, really? What kind of game are you playing, jerk? You're freaking Cecil Harvey, man, Paladin all the way. But nonetheless, too, it's just I mean, I tend to overgrind just because when I do grind, I'm watching TV or I'm listening to music or a podcast or something. So for me, it's actually very therapeutic.
Yeah.
But then certain
See?
games like Dragon Age Inquisition, for instance, I didn't grind as much or do as many side quests because I wasn't sitting in front of a TV. My iPad was probably in the other room. I wasn't listening to podcasts because BioWare environmental dialogue is so good. So, like, the game would say, you should really be level 15. I'm like, okay, level 10. I guess I can go through it. It's a BioWare game after all. How hard could it be? But, I guess it comes down just to the style of game and how you go about grinding out levels. And in JRPGs, I always tend to overgrind.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. And with Persona Q, I felt that the grinding was very natural because I think we can move on to one of the other gameplay aspects is the exploration in the labyrinths, which you have this percentage counter, which for every tile you take will be a certain percentage. If you would get to 100%, there will always be a floor treasure that you could open up that, especially in the beginning, would give you a very good item. Like, for instance, an item that will be permanently to get back to the hub town, for instance. I thought that was done very well, and I maxed out all the floors in the entire game. And that would already naturally give me a lot of experience for, just getting through the game. And only at the end I needed to grind up like maybe 3 levels or so. Did you guys go for the floor treasures, Danny?
Yeah, for the most part, up until the later stages, which we'll get to later. But yeah, I saw the percentage counter, and I was like, well, I'm not really that OCD. Why do I care if I get 100%? Then I open a chest, and it's Recarm, Medea skill card. I can dig this, and yeah, then I went for all the floors up until the later stages when I was just kind of tired of it. But I thought it was a really neat system, and like you said, natural progression as far as grinding. I didn't really felt like I had to grind too much. Only when like I said, towards the end, I kind of skipped a lot of battles just to get through it, and I got behind some levels. But yeah.
All right, Alex, you used a lot of floor treasures.
For me, I'd say up until the second to last dungeon, I was completely OCD with it. But I alluded this to the guys before we started recording. I tend to take my 3DS with me anyway, so I'm actually capped out on coins half the time. So it reached a point towards the end of the game where I'm like, fuck exploring this crap. How many coins do I owe you to open up this chest? Because you can use the coins.
Yeah.
And it would say like, oh, 15, 20, but if you don't explore the floor at all, it's literally like 180. And for me, which, I'm not, don't do this, you should explore as much as you can. But for me, 80 coins is not a big deal because I'll get it back in 2 days or 3 days or whatever it is. So I'd say I think the second to last dungeon I used coins once, and then the last dungeon I used it like maybe 2 or 3 times. And I still have 250 as of today.
Yeah, I'm pretty guilty of that. Like a lot of times I'll miss one freaking tile, and it's all the way across the map. It's like, fuck this. Here's your 1 coin, and I did that like a bunch of times.
I was strong enough to not use it, even though there was just one little tile somewhere. But
but you know what else it was too? I think some of the floor puzzles too. It made it like, okay, do I really feel like going through this whole sequence all over again and going through this FOE that I don't have the patience to dance around, and I'll just try to fight it instead, just to get this tile, which probably has a skill card that I probably have 2 of because I've pulled it out of different Persona 50 times already. Yeah. So that's what happened to me at one point. It literally.
Senkai, you went for some OCD floor completion?
I did for the first 3 dungeons, and then I realized that the amount of money scaled very well with the percentage. So at first it was like 250 coins you needed, but once you got over 90%, it was like the difference between 90, 91, and 98 and 99. Like it was like from 15 down to 3, and I mean like. The cap for the 3DS is 300 coins. So I had 300 coins, and I felt like if I pay 15 or 20 coins in the remaining, like every single floor from now on, for like dungeon 3, dungeon 4.
It's like, okay, I don't have the traditional wild card. I can't stack Jack Frost, Pyro Jack, a bunch of other guys, we'll say, for example, and Abaddon, because it just won't work. Yeah. So it really made me rethink some of the strategy because this system, as you said, Mike, hasn't been used in a while.
Yeah, so it was in the original Persona games. They used the sub-personas there. But then, of course, for Persona 3 and 4, they swapped that out. So, any thoughts, Danny, from the sub-persona stuff?
Yeah, I actually really love it. Just be able to customize your other party members, like you said, cover their weaknesses, and I like little details and customization. And certain personas just pair up well with your other characters. Like my Naoto she's like a, of course, light and dark dealer, and also status ailments. So I had Succubus, which she had forgot what the ability was called, to stagnant air or one that. Yeah, stuff like that, and then I eventually had Alice, which she's always been a favorite of mine, and she just fit with Naoto, and just certain, and I guess I had some of the angels or some of the more high physical attack ones to go with Aegis, so it's just a good match, and I think it was just fun playing around with that. So I love to see this come back in Persona 5. What about you guys?
Yeah, I would say I think this is definitely a good approach for Persona 5. I would say. Because with Persona 3 and 4, I always disliked the fact that I couldn't really customize my other characters that much. And in the end, I relied way too much on the main character, on Makoto.
Yeah, same here.
Exactly, yep.
I agree. I mean, with me personally, the main character, to me, is always the utility or the buffer. I mean, even so, like in MMOs, I hate to say it, even though I really enjoy playing a tank class, I always ended up playing a utility character. So, my main character, his job was basically just to keep everybody buffed up. Like he rarely ever attacked, and if he did attack, it was because, oh look, he's weak to fire. Here, poke. There, extra turn. But that was really it. And by not having a whole host of personas just to keep that utility going, I had to spread it out, but at the same time, I'm also sacrificing attack power or defensive power. So it really did open up the box for me a lot, and there was a lot of trial and error with my Persona picks, actually. Like I said, I wasn't able to use the ones I typically wanted to use.
All right, yeah, it is one of the, I would say, the better improvements that in the end really surprised me, and that is something that I always really enjoy. At least I notice a lot from Shin Megami Tensei and Persona games is all these little intricate systems that work really well together. Now, before we move on to some other gameplay stuff, I just want to briefly touch upon this subject because I don't think the three of you use this a lot. I was playing on hard, and I think I actually broke the game by downloading the free sub personas. And there were two free sub personas. There was a couple of them that were also paid that I didn't buy. But I picked up Kaguya and Orpheus Tellus, and you could. The good thing in the beginning of the game is they were about level 20 or so, and when you're beginning, you can actually summon them for free once, despite what level you are. So they're already helpful there for a lot of SP and HP boost. But since they were very helpful, I used them for, I would say, the beginning dungeon and a half. Then Kaguya got the ability Lunar Blessing, which it costs about 80 or so SP, but it will give the entire party, as long as they're alive. It doesn't work on, like, you know, characters that are KO'd and then get revived. But like for 3 turns, one enemy attacking will nullify the damage, no matter how powerful it is. So if you play against a boss fight, for instance, that only attacks once per turn, then it won't do any damage. And then if you add in Orpheus Tellus, which was actually a fire repellent, and Orpheus Tellus Mitsuru is weak against fire. It was on her the entire game. She would absorb fire, but it would also have Healing Harp, which if you would put that up, you would have for 3 turns long full status ailments and full HP recovery every turn. And I used this to get through the entire game, and I think it broke. Did you guys use it?
I did.
Okay.
I did as well.
At one point, though, I kind of checked myself. I was like, "All right, come on." I was like, "Come on, let's experiment. Let's have some fun. Let's take this shit off for this boss. Let's do this like a man."
Yeah.
And then I got game over, and I put it right back on. I was like, yeah,
exactly.
Forget this man shit. A win is a win is a win, no matter how dirty it is. All right.
Exactly. I was like, I'm playing on hard. Give me whatever I can get.
Well, for me, since I used Zen and Ray, and I used those two, I only had 2 slots left. So when it came to like the Persona fusion and stuff, I only had 2 Personas to like customize with. So I constantly moved around Kaguya and Orpheus Tellus to, like, if I got a new Persona which had really good ice attacks, and I would put that on maybe the guy who had Kaguya before, just because he needed like ice attacks. So I moved around Orpheus Tellus and Kaguya a lot, but I always had them. And Zen and Ray had no Persona, so it wasn't a lot of customization for me. But yeah, such good Personas, and I can only imagine if I download the other 2s, which were paid DLC, I wouldn't have any customization at all.
But you know what scared me about getting the paid ones? The example that popped in my head when I even considered it was Fire Emblem Awakening. That XP and Gold DLC they had, did you guys use them at all?
No.
No, I picked up for Fire Emblem Awakening, I picked up like the first 2 free packs, which would give you Ike and Marth.
Yeah, there's one set, I think it's called, like, I forgot what it is, but it's basically the grinding set. You go into a battle and you fight these enemies, and no matter what, you get like 1,000% extra HP.
Damn.
So, and then you do it, then they have one for gold too, where you get like 100% extra gold for every enemy defeated. Wow. And you do that 2 or 3 times, you can take that useless guy with the bucket on his head to actually, to actually being like viable. So
I know we're talking about Persona Q, but Donald spent so hard to level him up in the beginning. It took me 8 hours and so much reloads, but once he got hard, he was OP.
You use that DLC, he becomes a beast. And
he becomes a beast anyway, you know.
Yeah.
No, well, the 8 hours of suffering and wrist slitting. True. But once you get through that, it's it's totally amazing.
She's so versatile and just kind of sweeps away at the random encounters with her Mudo and Hama skills. And yeah, that's my party most of the game.
Yeah, I used Yukiko in the beginning as well until I was like, she didn't really do a lot of healing until I used you as my healer. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Alex, which ones did you use?
I went for the purest route. I stuck with exclusively P3 characters, except for I think it was one or two quests where Teddy had to be in the party, and I really liked him, but ultimately I just thought he was very annoying, so I kind of just rotated him out. But for the most part, main character, who I had geared towards enfeebling and buffing. Akihiko was my main damage dealer. Mitsuru was my magic damage. Yukari started out as a healer, but halfway through, I think it's the third dungeon, her skill tree and just her utility, I guess just to be nice, it kind of just went away. So ultimately, she just threw potions at everybody, or healing items rather, or buff items. That's all she did. Or if somebody had a weakness, she would throw like like a firecracker at him just so I could get the extra turn. And like even so for the final battles, she was, in all honesty, she was just like taking up a spot. She was kind of just like useless. But then on the other person I had in the back was Igus, and I totally agree with Danny. She's she's a beast to say the
Yep.
least. And there was a bunch of times where she really did bail me out of a lot of problems. Just for the fact that she can draw attention from enemies for an entire turn, or the fact that she could just take a ton of damage and just keep on moving. But I did notice her accuracy towards the end kind of went out the window, or maybe that was just me.
Hmm. All right, I kind of regret not using Igus in the end. You know, I should have
She
put
was
in.
really good. She was
I,
really
I
good.
I used her in the beginning dungeons until she didn't do a lot of damage. But
Yep.
I would have in the end swapped her out for Shinjiro, I would think.
Orgy mode, man.
Yeah, orgy mode, like Orja mode.
Orgy
It's called Orja mode. Of course,
Oh my! How many times did you accidentally activate that? And you're like, oh, now I am screwed.
I never liked that ability even in P3. I don't know.
I used it. I used it on the last boss actually, just because I was like, I have to end this like now.
what does it actually do? Like you get double damage or something?
Her crit
Uh,
rate goes through the roof.
yeah.
Ooh, Orja mode plus myriad arrows.
That's
But
exactly what
but
I
the
did.
catch is after 3 turns, she becomes paralyzed for 3 turns. So if you don't finish what you're setting out to do,
Yeah.
you're pretty much down a person. And in my case, because I had Yukari in the back, kind of just like spinning around in circles, I was really down 2 people.
All right, that's tempting. Yeah, of course, I only beat the Persona 4 route at some point. I'm taking a break now. At some point, I want to go back. Definitely want to put in Igus. Senkai, we didn't talk about your party setup.
Yeah. Well, so of course I had Makoto Yuki, and then for the second character I picked Akiko because I needed one for the front row, and he was my romance in Persona 3 Portable. And then I had Shinjiro for the same reason, both same reasons, front person and also romance in my New Game Plus for Persona 3 Portable. And then in the back I had Aegis, which also was the romance in Persona 3 Fes.
Okay.
And for the final part, I needed a ranged character, and there was no Persona 3 character left except Yukari, which I really, really didn't want to use. So I picked Zen and Rei because I thought, hey, these are new characters for the game, and I really want to see more of them. So that was my team.
Okay, so we like I mentioned, Zen and Rei, they are characters that you meet up very quickly. They are wandering around, and of course, in typical JRPG fashion, they lost their memory. Like, how many times have we seen that, guys? It's ridiculous.
I
But
don't remember anything, but I'm really hungry.
yeah. So you meet up with Sen and Rei. Sen is the guy who's very overprotective of Rei, and Rei is just bubbly, cheery girl that's always eating, making fun. And they actually they share one spot, so they team up, and they basically use one spot, and they use these abilities. Which I think will bring us more towards the gameplay, which is something that I really really enjoyed. So to get back into Persona 3 and 4, what you have there, the main cast has their own persona with their set abilities. And then you have your main character in both 3 and 4 that has the power of the wild card, and he can summon other different personas. Now what they did here in Persona Q is they threw that out of the window and they brought back some old staples from the earlier Persona games, where they brought in the ability to use sub-personas. So this goes for all the characters, except for Sen and Ray, who did not have the ability to use a sub-persona, which is why I swapped them out after the first dungeon. But all the characters, they have their own persona. So for instance, Yukiko, she has the persona that uses all the fire spells. But then you could add in one of the, I would say, 100, 150 or so personas out there that you could fuse, that you could recruit, and whatever. And then you can select that to your other character, and that opens up a very wide range and dynamic system where you could make sure to shield some people from their weaknesses. Adding in a sub-persona would also grant you like HP and SP bonuses. And I thought that was a great dynamic. I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was fantastic.
I really liked it as well, actually, for like the same reasons. But it did reach a point where, I've played through a bunch of SMT games at this point, and certain personas by virtue I just like more than others. Like the second I can make Jack Frost, he's immediately in my party.
Yeah, me
The
too.
second I can make Black Frost, he's immediately. It doesn't even matter if the abilities suck. He just has to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even so, towards the end of the game, part of the reason why my hour count was so high was because I was busy getting personas so I could get to the end game personas that I personally enjoy. But as a personal challenge to myself, I don't use some of the, I guess you could say, OP ones like Trumpeter. I used them in P3 and it broke the whole game. So
Norn, Trumpeter, whatever end boss, it should be Trumpeter or Norn. Those guys are OP.
But it's just like that. Ultimately, was also part of the challenge too, because it's like, oh, I can make Hellbiker now, and he doesn't help anybody. It's like, but it's like I want him in my party, so it's kind of like with this game, I felt like I had to be able to check myself using this system because. But in terms of first-person dungeon crawlers, I've played, and I alluded to this before we started recording. Might and Magic, Legend of Grimrock. Some of the more traditional, I guess you could say, first-person dungeon crawlers, and the Dark Spire, which is fucking hard, just to say the least. But but coming into a game like this, this Etrian Odyssey style, to me, it's a lot more accessible than the Dark Spire, because the Dark Spire just kicks you while you're down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, the Dark Spire is one of the absolute brutal, most hardest first-person dungeon crawlers that I've played out of the maybe 10 or so that I've played so far. So yeah, Persona Q is a lot more accessible, even for Etrian Odyssey fans. So Senkai, you played a few?
Well, so my first, I think, was, I played the demo for Etrian Odyssey 4, and I enjoyed it, so I got the full game, and it was very close to the release of Demon Gaze, so I played both of those, and I kept going back and forth to keep it fresh somehow, because I felt the lack of story in both games, but yeah, then so I got Millennium Girl because I wanted more story, and very, very close to Millennium Girl. When I picked it up, Persona Q was released, so I had to play that first, And Persona Q, I had so much fun with. I'm still playing it right now as we speak, actually. So yes, I will go and play Millennium Girl when I'm done with this one. But yeah, actually, so Persona Q is the first one I finished.
Okay, awesome stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys definitely check out Etrian Odyssey. Like I said, I still got to check out Untold Millennium Girl as well. So for some it might be new. So when Persona Q came out, I knew what to expect. You get here some first-person dungeon crawling. You get some 5 or so labyrinths to explore, 3 to 4 floors for the most part, and you got to draw your own maps. You got to do some, I would say, some puzzles as well. You got to solve some labyrinth puzzles, like figure out how to progress through certain floors, and there's all these typical dungeon crawler, types of shortcuts and floor puzzles, etc., that are usually there. And intermixed with that is, of course, random encounters, turn-based random encounters. And instead of building your own party in an Etrian Odyssey game, what you have here is the cast of either, at first, Persona 3 until they meet up with Persona 4, or Persona 4 until they meet up with Persona 3 characters. And then you can pick out of 20 or so characters and a few new ones that are specific for Persona Q. And I'm very interested because you can pick every character you want. Which routes did you guys pick?
I guess I can go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
P4, not really any good reason. I guess I prefer P4 a tad bit more than P3. And
Nerd.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I didn't know there was going to be that much difference for dialogue and scenarios between the two. I just thought the beginning party is just going to be Persona 4 exclusive. Yeah, no good reason, but P4 party.
All right, Alex?
I went with P3. Initially, I was going back and forth between the two, but between the two games, I love both, but P3 has, I guess you could say, a lot more of a sentimental attachment. I have more sentimental attachment to. And considering, I'd played through Persona 4, Persona 4 the Golden, Persona 4 the Ultimax, Persona 4 Arena, I was like, well, let's take it back to, P3, and let's stick with some of these characters we haven't seen in a while. So that was ultimately what how I made my decision on which route to take.
All right. Senkai?
Well, for a lot of reasons, I went with the Persona 3 route. I do much prefer Persona 3 over Persona 4. Also, according to Corn Muffin, when I watched his impressions, he said that the Persona 4 route was actually a lot better. So since I knew I was going to play them both, I wanted to start with 3 and have the better experience, like to end the game. And also, because I prefer Persona 3, I wanted to start with it. But
Okay.
So that was it.
All right. So, yeah, it won't come to anybody as a surprise. I prefer Persona 4 as well, a little bit over 3. So I went with the Persona 4 cast. And, it's nothing really groundbreaking. Like I mentioned, you play the first dungeon or so. Until the end of the first dungeon, you will eventually meet up with the Persona 3 cast. And from there on out, you can mix and match all the characters you want. There is only one reminder, and that is, which I sadly found out because whenever I play in a create your own party game, I just go with full female party, and I couldn't swap out Yu Narukami. I was a little bit disappointed that I could not run with my ultimate waifu squad of Mitsuru, Aigis, Yukiko, Chie, and Risei. Oh no, Risei is actually a navigator, so let's see, Yukari most likely.
No Fuka?
No, she's the navigator as well. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by that, but in the end, it didn't really bother me that much. Let's see, throughout the rest of the game, in the beginning I swapped a couple of characters, but in the end I stuck very true to Akihiko, Mitsuru, and Shinjiro in the front, and then in the back I had Yu Narukami and as Naoto. Naoto was a beast. What were some of the parties that you guys had, like Denny? Which some of the characters that you used the most?
Agree with I definitely agree with Naoto there. The first dungeon I really didn't like my party setup, so the game got easier and better for me when I got the P3 cast to play with. So for the most part, I stuck with the same members. Of course, Yu Narukami, since I can't replace him. He's just kind of utility kind of guy, just heal here and there and attack. Got Akihiko in the front lines, which turns out he's not really a great tank. He actually dies a lot for me.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so I end up switching him for Makoto in the end, but I'll explain why later. In the back, I had Aigis, which she is a beast in herself. Bullet sponge or a damage sponge, and a really good tank and range character as well. So very deadly. I mean not Yukari, Yukiko, just to deal, I guess, fire spells and heal, even though she didn't really get that many natural healing spells. And Naoto just because